Anderson, the proprietor of Anderson Cab Services, has been an integral part of Colonial Beach and its surrounding areas since at least September of 2013. And whereas her unwavering commitment to excellence is evident through her consistently well-maintained cabs, providing safe and reliable transportation for residents. And whereas her dedication has bridged the transportation gap for numerous individuals, facilitating access to essential services like groceries, pharmacies, and crucial appointments with reasonable fares and a compassionate approach towards those facing financial constraints. And whereas Denise's service extends beyond mere transportation as she selflessly assists in loading groceries and ensuring they reach people's homes, going above and beyond in her role. And whereas her commended efforts in keeping the community safe by offering rides to those in need after evenings at various establishments, ensuring individuals return home safely. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the town of Colonial Beach acknowledges and expresses deep gratitude to Denise for her tireless dedication, generosity, and outstanding contribution to our community over the past decade. We commend Denise for embodying the true spirit of service and selflessness, making a profound and positive impact on the lives of countless residents. Her exemplary service reflects the highest ideals of community stewardship and compassion. It is with great honor that we recognize Denise's invaluable service and extend our heartfelt appreciation for her unwavering commitment to the betterment of our town, given our hands under the official seal of Colonial Beach the 6th day of November of 2023.
So you may not know, but Denise has a very personable personality too. And she has to manage, can you imagine who gets in her cats? Think about it, guys. Come on, you know. Man has the dock ride, my car, all kinds of everything, but a lot of medical transport too, and really critical care to people. And just when you started your cab service here, just so you know, I was like, thank the heavens. Because we were so, yes, I know my grandmother needed her services, and she couldn't see anymore. She had degenerative glaucoma, and she couldn't drive, which was devastating. She hated asking for rides constantly because who wants to burden everybody else with those kinds of things. And I know my grandmother was one of just many people in this community that needed those kinds of services. But I know that you have to deal with a lot of sometimes precarious situations in the cab. And you are just the right personality for it. You've been a leader in this community, and it's somebody I look up to as a businesswoman. I really appreciate that. And I hope you enjoy your retirement. I know you will. Okay. Yeah, you want to finish anything? Yeah. You want to take it over here? Go for it. Okay, come on.
When you ride home after council.
I don't know, is there a way to get it up here? Here.
Yep. Sure.
You're just gonna get it over there. Oh, okay. Yeah, you look great. Picture. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful Christmas. Yeah, thank you very much. Denise, you have Bruce Piper to thank for the shout out. Yes. She has some very loyal customers out in the shores who love coming into town and appreciate her rides very much. All right, next up, the audit. Hi, Aaron. Are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. So I'm here with you tonight, and So the original plan was to present the final report tonight, and so that's why I was on the agenda. And that's what we had intention and planned all along to try to do that. But unfortunately, we just couldn't quite get there to have a final report ready for you guys tonight. It was about Thursday of last week. We finally were able to work together with the school board to kind of get those numbers over there where they needed to be. And just wasn't enough time in between last Thursday and today to be able to get a final report. We did get a draft report out there. I don't anticipate much changing at all from the draft report that's now circulating with finance and the school board. Anything that would change would probably be something along the lines of just, making sure verbiage is correct, typographical type things, putting numbers, but the numbers
Hold
themselves,
on.
I don't. Am I okay?
Yeah, we're back. Okay.
I was basically just saying, well, the report that's going to be final probably won't change very much from this draft, at least the amounts and numbers that are in the report. At least that's my anticipation. And so, but we did get to a good point in the audit. I know, and India still just wanted me to come out, or at least remotely, and address you all just to let you know what was going on. So that's what it is. We've got a draft report. We're still going to have the report submitted to the state by their deadline of next Friday, December 15th. So, and we'll get the comparative cost reports done and submit it to them. And then we will be presenting the final report in person at your next meeting. I know India wanted me to maybe mention fund balance. I know at least that was a question that she had for me. And on the draft report that I've got, you all started with your general fund, had about $3.1 million and had an increase of about 1.7 million. You're up to about $4.8 million in your general fund. And a majority of that is unassigned, which is for use at the town's discretion. So again, that's kind of where we are with it. Kind of just here to give you an update and let you know that the final will be coming soon. It will be submitted to the state, and then I'll be there to present the final at your next meeting.
Aaron, this is India. If you could maybe also give an update as it relates to the differences in the findings from last year to this year's audit results, please. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that. From working on the field work this year and talking to India and Lisa and the folks there, there was, you guys have been doing a good job of kind of removing findings over the years. And so I know last year was only one left, and it was on the segregation of duties. And from talking to India and looking at what you guys had done, over the past year or two, I decided that we could remove that finding from the town. And so there are no findings to report in the audit this year. Am I still there? Am I good?
Thank you. I think that may clarify some questions about balances and things of that nature. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to Lisa and her team for doing this. Again, prior to our arrival, we outsourced some of these functions with consultants. We have brought all of that in-house and have removed findings and significantly increased fund balance to a positive number. So very, very, very proud of the team for these efforts. Thank you.
I want to go further and thank specifically every single department head in this administration, India as town manager, and for every department came in under budget. There were savings across the board in every single department. That is fantastic. People were being very fiscally conscious throughout the year, and there was obviously oversight throughout the departments to have that savings. And so I just really appreciate the whole team. Because I wanted to thank Lisa a lot, but it's the whole team across every department for making that the case, and under really this whole new financial era of the town under India's leadership, and how we have been able to make changes from this body and in staff to put the town in the best position it's been in a very long time. And that is something to be truly grateful and proud of. So thank you to all of this, and please let all the department heads know. Thanks, Erin. We look forward to seeing you in January then.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay, moving right along. That's Chief Parsons. Sorry, should I stop calling you that?
No, that's
We'll
fine.
be more formal. Chief Parsons, I feel, we've known each other for a while now, so welcome aboard though, and welcome to the council meeting and your first update.
Thank you very, very much. Madam Mayor and honorable members of the town council. First off, thank you very, very much for the warm welcome. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be in this position. And I thank you all for that. Regarding the skill games.
Move the mic closer.
Yeah, you
gotta get the mic closer.
Better?
Is it the green light on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. In 2020, the Virginia Assembly enacted laws declaring skill games to be, is it okay? To be illegal gambling devices. In 2022, the laws were amended to make possessing, operating, and playing skill games a criminal offense, and also provided both civil and criminal penalties for persons operating such devices. A lawsuit was subsequently filed down in Emporia, which challenged the skill games ban, and the court granted an injunction or a stay on the enforcement of the skill games pending trial. That in effect allowed the skill games to continue to be operated. In 2023, or this year, the Virginia Supreme Court lifted that injunction, which allowed the enforcement of the prohibition against skill games to proceed. And the enforcement of the skill game laws is set to resume in January of 2024. So what is a skill game? A skill game is, by definition, is an electronic, computerized, or mechanical device that requires the insertion of a coin, token, currency, ticket, or other object to play a game. If the outcome of the game is determined by any element of skill of the player, then the winning player can win cash equivalents. Now I'm okay still.
Yeah, it's good now.
Cash equivalents or gift cards or other things that can be exchanged for cash, then the device falls within the definition of a skill game. That when they talk about any element of skill, they mean really anything. If you just have to push a button that changes the way that the lines read, so that is considered a skill. And so that would qualify it as a skill game. Amusement devices that pay out free games or non-cash rewards to the players are specifically excluded from the legislation and are not part of the definition of skill games. Skill games differ from games of chance. The outcomes of game of chance is determined exactly like that, only by chance, not by any skill or manipulation of the device by the player. The laws relating to the games of chance are governed by the Office of Charitable and Regulatory Programs, or what they call the OCRP. The OCRP falls under the auspices of the Virginia Department of Agriculture. Charitable gaming and games of chance are permissible under current law, but are stringently regulated and allowed only after the Commonwealth has issued an appropriate permit. And technically, the games of chance are treated exactly the same as pull tabs. And again, those have legitimate use and are available to use by permit. As we looked into it, the police department identified 2 local businesses that had operated skill game devices. Both those businesses have either disabled their machines or had them completely removed from the business premises, so they are no longer being operated. We also identified 3 charitable organizations in town that currently have valid permits to operate the games of chance at their establishments. All the referenced businesses and organizations were provided with a statement of the current law relating to skill game, the legal ramifications of operating or playing those which was written by the Westmoreland County Commonwealth Attorney. Those have been all been delivered all of the businesses that are the organizations that are using the devices are very much aware of the rules. All of the businesses and organizations that we contacted during this process were all very, very cooperative with us. And like I was saying, that they had actually taken steps to either disable or remove the devices prior to our contacting them. So anyway, that's it for this legislative. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Wood.
So Chief Parsons, I just want to make sure that we dispel any rumors. The three organizations that had valid permits are the Fraternal Order of Eagles, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and the American Legion, correct?
Exactly, yes.
There's no problem with those whatsoever.
No, sir. I've had contact with the people in charge of from the OCRP that are in charge of regulating those the businesses and the devices in those businesses, and there's no problems. In fact, they just went through another permitting process recently, so they are all currently permitted.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was news to me, the difference between a chance game and a skill game. I didn't even know there was such a difference, so.
Yeah, and like I said, the way that the industry looks at it is that the games of chance are just treated as pull tabs.
Mhm.
So even though I understand they're electronic devices, but they're treated exactly the same as the pull tabs.
Right, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I think when I first saw this skill games legislation, I was concerned about those organizations, so I'm glad they were not affected.
And I did check with the licensing, with the permitting agency, and those were the only ones that we had in town that are subject to that permit.
Sure. Okay, great. All right, good. Next up, Ms. Kelly Adco, thank you.
Madam Mayor and Council, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you briefly. A year ago, you passed the economic development plan for 23 through 25. And if you can't remember quite what those items were that we highlighted, then I'm going to review just the top highlights. We wanted to pursue the Main Street designation, increase retail restaurants, support and strengthen maritime, healthcare, improve or work on access, workforce, support career and entrepreneurship, and the workforce housing. So just briefly, I wanted to share some highlights from 2023 and kind of talk about the priorities for the next year. The town of Columbia Beach held its first business appreciation event in July. We had over 65 people attend. This was very well received and enjoyed, and we saw many people that we hadn't seen in many years, according to those of you that have been here a little longer than myself. So a great event, and we are grateful to the Ice House and the Chamber and DCB for supporting that event as well. But we also developed a strategic tourism plan. As you know, tourism is a big part of economic development in this town, not every town, but this town in particular. And we felt like we needed to do a plan for that is part of the economic development plan. And we brought in Virginia Tourism. We're really grateful to Laura Messer, who is our development manager, who works for Virginia Tourism. Virginia Tourism has done these reports for 10 years. So they came, we had 2 stakeholder meetings, they were well attended. We had 30 people, mostly those that are involved in lodging and restaurants and activities. We took the highlights and the priorities of those and then developed a plan for that, which you guys reviewed earlier this year, and we're proceeding to move forward with that. The other part of the role of economic development is partnerships. Economic development can't be done in a box, and we really need our partners. And there's so many partners now. And so many people I talked to were like me. They hadn't been to Colonial Beach in a long time. And everybody that came was thoroughly impressed. And so we were really grateful to have representatives from Department of Housing and Community Development, Virginia Economic Development Partnership, Main Street, Go Virginia, Virginia Housing recently, and these are just a few, but what that helps us with are all of these organizations have grants and funding, and in order to be part of that, they need to be familiar with your operation and what's happening in the town, and many of them just were not. So this just opens up the doors for us, and these are relationships that we can build on in the future because there are more opportunities coming with those as well. And I want to thank the Economic Development Committee members as well. They played a large role in helping, and they were very supportive in meeting me many times for lunches to meet with and share their ideas and inputs for the town as well. So I've listed some of the groups that we met with. We're also working with the Northern Neck Planning Commission. We work with our neighbors, King George. We had representation from Fredericksburg Regional Alliance, and also Virginia's Gateway even came to see us so they could get some ideas. New businesses, that's always a big part of economic development. And I listed a few here: the Fire Escape, the Pink Poodle, Kobe Workspaces. Actually, it's hard to believe, but they've been open just about a year. Colonial Beach, Train Junction, and the Massage and Body Works, the Orchid Thai, Circa, and then the Crab location as well. So we were also represented at many conferences and conventions and meetings. And the reason that we do this is it gets the word out about Colonial Beach. And again, many of our partners, state partners and groups attend these meetings. It's good for us to have a presence there. So just to name a few of the things, we attended the National Main Street Conference, which was in Boston this past year. Also, North Carolina held a Main Street, and it was so inexpensive to attend, and also very enlightening as well. VEDA, the Virginia Economic Developers Association, holds 4 meetings a year. This year we actually attended all of those meetings. And the Northern Neck Planning Commission and Virginia Tourism also just held a major conference in Richmond, and we attended that as well. Other priorities that we took on this past year were expanding the enterprise zone. We're waiting to hear from DHCD. That's a state level sign off. There's no reason to expect that that wouldn't be approved, but you just never know. Sometimes politics are involved in that decision. We also hosted the National Federal Test Bed here in Colonial Beach at Kobe. And they met with some of our stakeholders to find ways to partner with small companies that may be able to solve some of our challenges like they do in other communities across the country. We also worked with the Chamber Economic Development Committee and Downtown Colonial Beach as well to prioritize. We collaborated to bring together all the stakeholders in the holiday groupings and those that have events, and we hope in the future we can do that even earlier. That way we can continue with additional promotion. So we're grateful also for our marketing coordinator that helped with that as well. And we also collaborated and worked with the Go Virginia and an entrepreneurship grant and got that secured for the schools for Colonial Beach. And we were able to do a field trip with them. And they had 10 students that participated in that, which is very strong. We hope to continue to grow that aspect as well. So what do we see for 2024? There's always still more work to do. We want to build on the relationships and continue to enhance those. We also want to make it as easy or as streamlined as possible to do business in Colonial Beach. We want to work with Virginia Housing to find more ways to educate and fund feasible studies for several properties. We want to continue to pursue Main Street certification. That is a 2-year process. And we'll continue to attend key meetings with our partners. We're also working on some of the maritime. I mentioned the enterprise zone. That would include the marinas. And so when that is approved, we will meet and also try to work on some other enhancements with our maritime folks. That is a big area that has huge potential for this town. We also want to host a developer or real estate meeting for those that are involved in local areas in the spring, as well as do another business appreciation event. So we'll take what's worked well over the past year and just continue to try to build on that. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have any concerns, you can always reach out to me. I am part-time, but I'm here as needed.
Kelly, I just wanna say you're everywhere. Every conference, every time I end up in some, any agency, they've met you, you've been to see them, or you're at the same conference I show up to, and I didn't even know you were gonna be there. It's a pleasure to work with you. It's a pleasure to see you around. And you have everywhere you go, just incredible relationships with these people. And I just thank you for that because you represent the town of Colonial Beach every time you show up to these things with every person you meet. And that means the world to me in this community, because I think you're representing us very well across the board. And I just appreciate the time and effort you spend doing that. I get to Warsaw, you're in Warsaw, the National Heritage Meeting, or anyway, I see you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. It's really been a joy to be here. I originally was just going to come and help with a developmental plan, kind of stayed. So it's really a treat. I really think a lot of the community, there is a true sense of community. I've worked with a lot of localities in my last 12 years doing economic development, and there are a few communities where I see the community spirit that's here in Colonial Beach. So there's just so much potential. It's been a joy to work on. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm really grateful for you and for India for giving me the chance to be here. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Yeah, here we go. I just wanted to say, I've seen firsthand all the hard work that Kelly's put in being the economic development liaison. I've seen her at all these meetings and seen all the invites and all the updates. So I just wanted to say I really appreciate all your efforts to bring more business to this town so that we can eventually maybe look at possibly lowering taxes. Maybe that would be nice. Thank you.
That's well, thank you. We appreciate you being the liaison and Dr. Karen joining it the year before. It's been very helpful.
Yes, Mr. Wood.
Yeah, Kelly, I'm going to go a little different than my compliments than the other folks had. Yes, you do a wonderful job, but the real thing is you're where the rubber hits the road. And we see evidence of that. And that's the amazing thing is that a lot of times we're all well-meaning people in this town and we're all doing a bunch of different things. But a lot of times we don't see the results. We see the results from you. So keep coming.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I
Appreciate
would
it.
say to Rick's point, there are real results, and one of those real results is demonstrated in our audit because meals tax and lodging tax are both up, and the economic vitality of the town to support these new businesses is dramatically different than it was before. And I think we've got to continue to support that in order to support the local families that run these businesses and their kids that go to our school system and all the people that work at them and the entire system that feeds into in our community to provide more service and benefit all of us, as citizens. So but there are numbers to prove it too, that both of those revenues are up, and I think that reflects the fact that more people are coming and patronizing these businesses and investing their money and spending money in town. And so I just want to let you know that we'll have more specifics in January when Aaron comes back, but there's some good news in that too.
Fantastic.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Kelly, I just want to thank you for your pushing for the maritime industry. I've been working on and off, talking with the different marinas in town, and they are coming together. I think the one thing that I've been pushing for, but since before I got on town council, we just need one wayfaring sign that says marinas.
I agree. I had a conversation with somebody about that today. Actually, you know, people don't realize the cost of signage. Signage is just not cheap at all.
I believe the marinas are ready to chip in. We can just get it.
We will put that on the agenda. I really hope to have a meeting this past fall, but I wanted to wait until we knew about the enterprise zone to get everybody together, because then I'd have a little more meat and substance. And there are a few other things we'd like to do for them. There's some opportunities there as well, but that's just an untapped area in my opinion, for us to grow in the future.
They bring a lot of money into this town
They really do.
and they have felt neglected
Yep.
in the past. And we just really need to recognize their contribution to our economic development.
Correct.
Thank you.
To piggyback off of Karen's comment here, because you gave it opening to it, Tom Moncur has a request. Our former council member Tom Moncur to have a Pirates Festival in Columbia Beach. That is coordinated by the marinas, not by the town. But by a coalition of the marinas. I'm putting it out there into the ether atmosphere.
I think that's a great idea.
In May to celebrate one of the pirates, most successful pirates' birthdays, I think he has.
Was his name
Date already.
or something?
It's not Blackbeard, it's a different one. But he found a date in May to celebrate a pirate birthday. And I would like to get with you on that. Tom has a vision, a very,
I'm not surprised.
no, me neither.
Reach out to,
Virginia Tourism, may have funding for something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was a very exciting vision that he has.
It's actually a good.
Yes.
reach out
It
to
is.
Chuck.
All right, hold
Woodruff.
on. Keep it.
Reach out to Chuck Woodruff and Phil Boland.
Okay.
They are definitely and ready to help.
I like how we're
make
just
that happen.
asking her for things in the middle of the meeting.
I'll follow up. I'll make sure I have their contact information.
Mr. Wood.
If you want to see the economic impact of a pirate festival, a few years ago, a friend and I were going to kayak at Rock Hall, Maryland. Never heard of it before. And we drove in and there were 2,000 people dressed as pirates. If you can't have a good time among 2,000 people dressed as pirates, then you need to. But that little town, who had no other reason really to exist, made more money that weekend than they could shake a stick at. So I'll get a pair.
I love the idea.
Tom has an outfit already. And an outfit for me, I think.
Probably.
No, he does. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Sally. I appreciate it. And I appreciate Mr. Williams and your work with the Economic Development Committee too. All right, next up is public comment.
Great, we have two that have signed up in person, and then I have an email from Ms. Paige Williams. 3 emails from Mr. Knuckles for public comment, and 1 from Mr. Kelly.
Okay.
So if you wanna start with the in-person.
Yeah, let's do in person first. They're here.
So Mr. Nelson.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Town Council, it's so nice to see you guys. I've been away. My husband and I were on a very extended vacation, so it's nice to be back and amongst my Columbia Beach family, and it's nice to see a new face here on council. Welcome. Yeah, as Dr. Karen Sullivan said, there's a new addition to the holiday festival activities on Town Hill. I and a few other people who have Jewish heritage and others who actually just like the idea of being inclusive and supporting diversity have gotten together and purchased a menorah, a 9-foot tall menorah. And it's going to be lit tomorrow. So unfortunately, I was the one who actually purchased it, and it's the kind that you turn on the first light and then every other light will light up automatically with each night. So because we were away, it didn't occur to me to have some sort of event that would mark the beginning of Hanukkah. But it's been suggested now a couple of times over the past couple of days. So probably next year we will try to do some sort of event that marks the beginning of Hanukkah. We might do something at the last day of Hanukkah this year, but that's to be determined. But anyway, I think it's a wonderful addition to the town hill, to to the landscape of the holiday festival, and appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. Can I switch hats for just a second and talk about the love signs? Because wasn't at the last meeting or two, but I just wanted to, I'm on the Artist Guild and was partially responsible for all of the love signs that are up around town. And our goal from the Artist Guild perspective was to be the town in Virginia with the most love signs. That's been our goal for several years now. And we are getting there. We're inching our way there. We have, I think now 10 or 11 love signs. I think we need one more to make that happen. So one of the signs that I personally painted was not a love sign. It has the two dancers. And we're gonna put love on that. So that's the point, we're gonna count that as a love sign. And then I think we will become the town in Virginia with the most love signs, and we'll be able to promote ourselves that way. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just realized that this was a combined meeting of work session and regular meeting, and we did not have the school through the county supervisor. So if you want to come up and give an update, I would, yeah, sorry to call you out. Come on up.
Dr. Mitchell told me to tell you Merry Christmas and see you leaving.
Oh, no.
That's town council, Madam Mayor, good to see you. First of all, I want to thank the professionalism of that lady right there whose birthday it is today. In the many hours that I've spent with her in meetings and other things through the years that she has been here, she has always been prompt, responsive, reliable. I could go on and on with the accolades. Very professional, very knowledgeable. And you know, Madam Mayor, we've been in some meetings together where she never speaks until the end. She wants to know what everybody else is saying first, analyzes it, and then says something if it's worth saying. But I want to thank you, India. This ain't goodbye because I know where you're going to be and I'm going to come and see you. But I thank you for everything that you helped us with while you were here. I think you know some things that we've worked on that I hope in the future will come to be, and you were a part of making that start if it ever comes to be. So we'll invite you back one day for that. So thank you so very much. I want to congratulate the chief. I look forward to working with him the next 4 years. Also want to tell you that you know, the 3rd district election was contested. Today they did the count. It didn't change. Mike Ingram won by 9 votes still. I don't know if you heard that or not, but he had 3 judges that reviewed all that at the courthouse today, and it's over. So that's been decided. So we now have 2 new board of supervisors members, Jeff McCormick and Mike Ingram, in the 2nd and 3rd districts. So the county administrator, the new one, started on Monday. So I look forward to him coming and meeting with you, or meeting somewhere and getting to know all of you. And I think that, you know, I'm looking at a lot of changes here that we've seen that hopefully will be a lot of new positive changes moving forward. The Christmas with the sheriff, I've been blessed to participate in that for the last few years with my family. About a week ago, the sheriff let me know that they were way behind in donations and needed a little bit of assistance if possible. They last year had, I think it ended up being 32 kids, the year before that around 30. This year he had 31, 10 of them from Colonial Beach. So it's he spends $300 per child. They buy coats, shoes, or gloves, or things like that, and then a few gifts for the children. It's such a blessing to be involved with that. And so this year, even though I'm the last person in the world to ever ask anybody for money, I did send out a message to a couple people, and they actually forwarded that message to a couple people. And I have to tell you, this town just has people that never quit giving in so many different aspects. And many of these people have already given to the school and given to other programs for Christmas. And in a week's time, we were able to get about $5,100 and put it over the top to pay for all those 31 kids. And there's always a couple that there's still donations coming in from people in the town. But I'm just so grateful for that. And the sheriff, I talked to him on the way down here, he was just telling me how overwhelming it was, you know, that we were able to do that, and that, because we are part of the county as well, and in my mind, it doesn't matter where those children are. You know, if they need help and they need to have a Christmas, I'm just thankful for the people that step up, and many of them sponsored a child and gave $300, and many businesses participated, so thank you for all that. And I want to tell you one other little story. This very brief, India contacted me today about being on the agenda for the meeting on the 15th, the historical marker. You know, I made plans, you know, quite a while ago to be in Kansas on that date, and I felt, you know, really bad about it. So I contacted the grandson of Berkeley Muse, and he's actually named Berkeley Muse too. And I've known him my whole life. We've been lifelong friends, and he assured me that he would not hold it against me if I wasn't there. And I'll just tell you the caveat to that is he and I are both going to be together in Kansas. So he won't be there either, and he didn't know about it. And but he said his knowledge, he didn't know about it, but you know, he don't always look at his mail like I do. So I don't know whether he invited him or not, but a lot of his family still lives right in this town. And so anyway, but I told him when we get back, we'll definitely go look at it, and you know, and check it out, and you know, he's grateful for any recognition for that, but we've grown up with that, and you know, so we know all about it, and been around for a long time about that. But it's just kind of interesting that, you know, I'll be together that day, and we'll think about you when you're here, honoring that family, and recognizing them for that. But anyway, anything that anybody has for me?
Would you consider zooming in?
Probably not. And I'll tell you why, because I'm going to be in a marsh, and I probably won't have my phone. For anybody that doesn't know, I like to duck hunt, so we'll be waterfowl hunting. We'll be in a marsh somewhere. We may not have a signal, but you know, that's nice of you to offer that. And I might call you, FaceTime you. You never know. But we'll talk about that after, you know, later to see. But yeah, that would be interesting. Without a doubt. So, but anyway, anything that anybody has, or any questions that anybody have for me?
So Mr. Wood first.
Yeah, just want to congratulate you on your reelection.
Well, thank you. It was a tough election.
Yes.
I had a lot of people leaving the polls telling me they voted for me, and I really thanked them, and I was very grateful for that. And they didn't even know nobody was running against me, so I was like, you know, I'm still grateful though, and I just have to tell you that I've been so blessed to be able to represent the people that live in this town, and all of you. We've all made an impact on our county, and I really believe moving forward that we're going to make a bigger impact. That they're going to start recognizing who we are, and that we're the jewel of this county. And I believe that with all my heart. And I think that, you know, there's going to be new members on the board now, and there's an opportunity for some new things to happen, you know, after all these years that has been dissension and different things that have gone on between the county and the town, and I think we're on the right road, and I'm very grateful to be a part of that, and you're my partners, and I really appreciate all of you do. So we'll keep that going, and we'll work together to make some good things happen in the next year. You know, the county administrator's last day is the last day of this month, the current county administrator. So, and he can't have any contact with the county for 30 days under VRS rules. So, so anyway, that's going to be tough on him, I'm sure. So maybe he'll decide he's really retired, and you know, and he'll move on to retirement life. So, any other questions?
This one.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about the new county administrator. Do you have any information on their background, where they come from?
Well, he's a retired Army colonel. He was a city manager in a city in Pennsylvania. And you kind of put me on the spot because I don't have his bio in front of me or anything, but just from, you know, he seems very squared away. He was real excited to come here. He has a daughter up in Reston in the Northern Virginia area. So they were glad to move back to this area. And he's really excited about doing this. I mean, he was a city manager, so it's a little bit different, and he was in a city, and now he's going to be in a rural community. And, you know, he had concerns just like we all have, no hospital within 40 miles and things like that. But maybe that's a good thing, because when you get somebody in a position like that, they may have a little leverage, you know, try to make some of these things happen. And
I was just gonna say, did you guys use a company to find that person or? how did
no,
you-
we actually advertised ourselves, and we had 19 applicants and numerous I mean, we had some really qualified people. And we interviewed 6 people, and he was the best candidate, and he accepted that. So it's gonna be good for him. I think he's gonna be good for our county, and he'll have some learning to do, but he'll spend the rest of this month with the county administrator, and he'll help him through some of those things, and then, you know, possibly help when budget time comes around, because it'll be new to him as well, you know, what we've done here. But it's a good staff down there that I think will work with him and help him, so, but I'm excited because I think it's a new opportunity for him to come here and see this town and just see what we're doing. I hope it's a golden opportunity for economic development, because there has been none in the county or very little since I've been on the board. We see development all around us, you know, especially with these data centers and things like that are going up there, that are actually generating millions and millions of dollars in revenue for towns and counties, and you know, it's several going on, and so I don't know that that's what we would bring here, but it's something to at least look at and see if it's something that it could occur. I know there's going to be one in King George and in Carolina, I think, in Essex, and or Lady Smith. There's gonna be a couple of them that's going wide open. So anyway, I know y'all got a long agenda. Is there anything else that anybody would like to ask?
I just want to extend a warm welcome to the new oh my gosh, county administrator.
Yeah.
They're all called something different. County administrator. And please extend that invite for him to come to our January regular meeting and introduce himself, give him some time, you know, in the role, but. I think that would be wonderful. A lot of our citizens that come to our meetings don't always make it down to the county. So then he would get a chance to, you know, people get a chance to meet him.
I'll try to make that happen. And I think he's planning on being up here before then, but.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
you know,
come more than that, but
absolutely.
also,
But yes, and I'll absolutely do that, at our meeting coming up, which you'll be down there too, most likely. Or
yes,
somebody will be there.
we'll be there.
And so, so you get an opportunity hopefully to talk to him there for a few minutes, if he hasn't already come up here before that. We'll see. Anybody else? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
I'm looking forward to the new year. We're gonna do great things next year. I'm sure of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry to interrupt public comment with that. So next.
Mr. Griffey,
It's on the wrong sheet. I'll throw my comments later.
Got it. Okay, no problem.
all right, so I will go through the emailed comments. First is from Mrs. Paige Williams. Says town council, I feel that the parks master plan and the development of 2 parks should be voted on separately. The public has had just a few days to review this plan, so why the rush to approve so soon? Why are you voting to spend so much money without going through the CIP and normal budget process? You really should reevaluate your priorities with all the sewage treatment plant and other infrastructure issues. If you plan on voting tonight, I ask you to vote no. Oh, and I think a path in the middle of Eleanor Park is ridiculous. Sincerely, Paige. And I have Mr. Kelly, his comment is in reference to agenda item 14A.
We nixed it.
We struck that agenda item.
You want me?
I think you have to read it.
Yeah. Agenda item 14A has been on the agenda for several meetings. It calls for a closed meeting for discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose. We now know that it's the property 800 Colonial Avenue. It sounds like the council is determined to purchase this property with no public input. I don't see this acquisition as a part of a comprehensive strategic real estate plan. It would make sense to taxpayers if the town were to sell an underutilized real estate asset and use the proceeds of that sale to cover the cost of the acquisition. Repositioning assets for the betterment of the town is a worthwhile endeavor that I can support. I call your attention to the town-owned property on Marshall from Wirt to Nelson Street. There are 9 buildable lots on this town-owned property. The sale of this underutilized asset could easily generate $1 million from the sale of the lots and increase the real estate tax base by as much as $3 million. There is a paramount need to be transparent with taxpayers. Thoughtful structuring of a real estate deal when undertaking a large purchase like this one is critical to the town. Thanks for your consideration of my comments. Best, Joe. And then I have 3 from Mr. Knuckles. His first one is in reference to resolution 5123. For the Parks Master Plan, he says. There is no justification presented why the FY 23-24 budget should be amended at this specific time to fund 2 park projects which relate to a general park plan that has only now been proposed for town council approval. I believe that in your budget modification should only address expenditures that could not have been foreseen or items which could reasonably be depicted as emergency expenditures. For items such as repairs or upgrades to our struggling wastewater system, both capital expenses and consideration for increases in labor expenses to address the seemingly challenging aspects of recruiting new workers. As these are neither proposals to fund items that could not have been foreseen, nor are they items related to the public health or safety, I strongly encourage town council to simply roll these items into the budget planning process for 24-25, which will be commencing in just a few months. And that is the time to have a robust discussion of not just these 2 parts, but parks and recreation in general. I ask that you vote no for this mid-year budget amendment. I also object to the way this decision items is advertised in the agenda, as the agenda item is listed as Parks Master Plan Final Report and Design Approvals. Should only address whether the vendor developed proposed Parks Master Plan should be adopted as town policy, and that any modification to the 23-24 town budget should be clearly advertised as a separate agenda item. Particularly when modifying a previously approved budget, the town council should take care to clearly advertise any efforts to modify that document. At a minimum, there should be separate votes on whether to approve, modify, or reject the proposed Parks Master Plan, and a vote on a resolution to modify the current fiscal year budget. Next one is on gateway signage. I believe that in your budget modification should only address expenditures that could not have been foreseen and or items which could reasonably be depicted as emergency expenditures for items such as repairs and upgrades to our struggling wastewater system. Both capital expenses and considerations for increases in labor expenses to address the seemingly challenging aspects of recruiting new workers. As these are neither proposals to fund items that could not have been foreseen during the development of the 23-24 budget, nor are they items related to public health or safety. I strongly encourage town council to simply roll these items into the budget planning process for 24-25. Same thing as I said before. I ask that you vote no for this mid-year budget amendment and instead include it in the 23-24 budget deliberations. In my opinion, only items of great importance should justify modifications to existing budgets, and even when budget items like this seem to struggle on their face, they should be brought forward with budget offsets, not as a series of budget increasing requests. This disturbingly seems to be the norm of that. Adopting the Parks Master Plan as delivered is likely premature given the current form of the document. Before adopting the vendor authored Parks Master Plan verbatim, I do hope that the town council takes time to consider some assumptions at the start of the plan, which I see as potentially problematic. The fact that this consulting group foresees a drop in the population of CV over the next 5 years is truly interesting. The assumptions may mean that the needs and proposed solutions of those needs are inadequately addressed by the proposed plan. Furthermore, I wish they'd included a longer trend analysis of population and demographics as making capital decisions based on 5-year projections. Looks more like a reaction to current needs rather than a longer master. That said, it's not a bad thing to address current needs, as some portions of CV have seemingly underserved for some time. But if that's the focus, I want to work on what's possible given a realistic depiction of on-hand funds and like short-term grant awards would be helpful. Addressing the current question before town council, I would think it is important to pair what's desirable with what's likely to get funded and built. And see where there could be overlaps between the two lists. A parks master plan should include such analysis either in the plan document itself or as an addendum with its delivery. Asking, should we approve the proposed master plan as a standalone question appears to only tee up applying for grants and spending funds currently not in the budget when the topic really deserves more consideration. And if you're doing any true master planning effort, it should also dovetail with the comp. And that is a public comment, general public comment.
Okay. Does anybody else have any public comment while you're here and sign up to make sure anybody else has an opportunity? Okay. All right, we'll move forward to Parks Master Plan, final report and design approvals. Mr. Thatcher and Sally.
Yep.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you about the final master plan. I just want to kind of give you, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background, kind of refresh you, and then Sally's going to take over and kind of go through the presentation. So, and then I'll be here to help answer questions. Do you remember we started back in 22 with the master plan and with a goal of completing it in 2023. We were hired and worked with the local staff to do a needs assessment, and as part of that needs assessment, we did a really robust community engagement, including an online survey, public forums, so that we could really kind of ascertain the needs and the wants of the residents. One of the things that we do is we use a mixed method approach to our master planning and our information gathering. We had over 330 residents that participated in community workshops and our focus group meetings, stakeholder meetings. We interviewed members of the board as well as the leadership, and then also did an online and a paper survey as part of that process. One of the things that we wanted to kind of point out is we went through this process. We were very inclusive of the members of the community and engaged them multiple times. They had opportunities to participate, as I mentioned, through focus groups and stakeholder meetings. We did a SurveyMonkey online survey, and then as part of the another part of the plan was to do the conceptual plans for Northside Park as well as Eleanor. And so we did a separate SurveyMonkey survey and held separate workshops for both of those. The survey for the park specific, we had 414 residents that participated within that survey. So very good representation. So I'll turn it over to Sally to talk about the staff's engagement.
Okay, in order to engage the community, we took a lot of different avenues. We regularly posted flyers and postcards with and without QR codes, which led people to the surveys. We had over 30 locations that we were posting, and many of you all commented on seeing lots of things about the survey over time. We provided paper surveys to residents who preferred conventional engagement. We utilized the town website, several Facebook pages, and Nextdoor to post invitations to participate in surveys, town meetings, and focus groups. We also sent hundreds of emails to various groups and group leaders, and I mean hundreds, to ask for help engaging the community and inviting their participation. We hosted town meetings with Barry Dunn representatives at the CB Community Center, the town center right here, and at Colonial Beach Elementary School. And we worked with the Cooper Library to engage residents in reviewing the visual aids from those meetings that were in order to give people the opportunity to post their preference and ask questions and offer opinions on the actual Master Parks Plan boards. And you'll see some examples of that in the next picture. It's just, you can see all the different ways that we reached out to people with flyers and posts and posters and all kinds of online engagement. So next slide. And then, of course, we had lots and lots of meetings where we had several people from the different community groups, and we reached out to groups, all kinds of groups, any kind of group we could think of. We invited to say, please come and participate and tell us what you want to see in the parks plan. Okay, next slide. The North Side Park is one of the two parks we're talking about this evening. The North Side Park is the one that is at Azalea and Stratford Streets. It's right now in basically an empty lot. And this is an example, the play yard that we are looking at for that particular park. It's a pirate ship, and it's this particular one that you're looking at is for kids ages 2 to 5 years. Next slide. The next slide is the one for kids 5 to 12 years. However, we have some suggestions that the older kids play yard is actually adaptable to younger kids. So it seems to be a more inclusive play yard. That's just for you all to see what it looks like. The next slide. I'm going to let Art take over here because this talks a little bit about the budget for Northside Park.
Yeah, so as we developed the conceptual design for the park, we were also working with LSG Consulting and Architect, and they came up with some conceptual costs for the park itself, for its site work, the hardware there, as part of the design. We were looking at a loop trail. One of the things that we know is that if you put a perimeter trail in a park, that it increases the use by about 70%. And so looking at creating that loop trail, also looking at creating some concrete benches as well as a trail that leads off of the property. The playground, that we came up with this design of the sailboat, the pirate ship, so that it would kind of fit into the theme of the community and the area. Also, as part of that, building in some benches and some of that site finishes, and then doing some decorative planting, shrubs and those things. These are just the costs that we have here that we've come up with for the conceptual plans or for those specific items there. This does not include your schematic designs, your design development, and then all your permitting and those things. We were just kind of dealing again on the conceptual side of that. So looking at the kind of the overall cost for the design of the plan of $220,000. I know that that the town is looking at or has received a Virginia Land Conservancy Fund grant to help fund the phase 1 of this project.
All right, next slide. This is a decision slide, but the decision is actually a fun one. You get to look and see whether or not the decision is for a park for ages 2 to 5 or a park for the ages 5 to 12, and to think about colors, because we have a lot of options in colors. In fact, really we have a rainbow available to us. So if you decided you wanted it in drifter colors, that could be done. It's interesting that it has a pirate ship in it after we've been talking about pirates all evening, but Pirate Cove Park might be a possible name. We've thrown some different names about. So that might be another decision you want to consider. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide, and I can come back to this one if you have more questions about the parks. Now to Eleanor Park. Eleanor Park, phase 1. There are 3 phases to the building of Eleanor Park, but we're just talking about phase 1 this evening. To be built, Eleanor Park to be built in phases, with phase 1 to include site prep work. These are all estimates, of course, educated estimates. An entrance sign, the installation of the benches that already exist. Thank you to all of the donors. This is a gift that we have been waiting to use, but of course, in planning, you have to take your time and make sure that you put them in the right place so that they will be used. And a concrete trail. I'm going to move on to the next slide because the concrete trail as designed, this is excluding the pier, in the heart-shaped trail, is an $80,000 trail. That's just for the trail alone. Now, that means we may want to consider some alternatives. to that particular trail. The full heart-shaped trail with no center loop within the park boundary versus the partial heart shape in the current design with the extension over the pier to come later. Also to use materials other than concrete. For instance, compact dirt would allow for future modifications if we change our mind on how we want the trail to look, and we do later want to put in a concrete trail, we could do that. And also to reduce the trail width. It's currently designed at 6 feet. The reduction would likely lower the price and allow for design flexibility for other park features. This is the only thing that we don't have a number attached to yet. The goal is to keep the number under the amount that would allow for us to use the Virginia Land Grant to pay for the installation. And that number is contained in the next slide, I believe. Over there. Okay. Will it list those numbers once again? The phase 1 excluding the trail is $46,000. And then if we were to keep it under $90,000, I think that information is in there. I hope it is. If it's not, we'll amend that later. And that would keep us within the amount that we have available through the Virginia Land Grant. Okay, now let's go on to slide 14, which is future considerations for Eleanor Park. This is not a decision slide for this evening. This is simply for informational purposes. Phase 2 would include parking, but I'm going to stop on parking because we have had a suggestion come up today, which is why it's not included in the slideshow. And the suggestion was to use part of Dandridge Lane for parking, which would reduce the cost of installing any kind of parking on the lot itself. I'm going to let Art cover this question as well.
So as we showed you when we were here earlier about the 3 different concepts, one of the things that with this concept that the community had selected was that we had perimeter parking. You can barely see the number 9s on the perimeter on Dandridge and on Losing to do parallel on-street parking. One of the things that did come up was that we could close Dandridge and use that right side lane closest to the park for parking would reduce the cost of the parking. You've already got asphalt there. You could line the parking spaces and still have a drive-through to get to Losing from that parking area. So it wouldn't be a 2-lane street, it would be a 1-way area. So it's just something to consider to get parking into the phase 1.
And that would still be a possibility and stay within the numbers of the grant. We don't have the numbers yet because this just came up this afternoon. So also would include pavilion, the phase 2, which as I said, is not included in tonight's decision making. It's in your document, but that's as a possibility for the future. But phase 2 would be tree protection, fencing, pavilion, bathrooms, and enhanced trail plantings, traffic calming, and landscape borders. And phase 3 would include the recreational pier, shoreline improvements, pier site furnishing, and new plantings. Let's go on to the next slide. There is no direct fiscal impact to the town related to the approval of the Master Parks plan. The plan is approving the plan simply gives us a place to begin thinking vision, as visionaries. The Eleanor Park Phase 1 and Northside Park costs will be covered by the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation grant. Next slide. Additional impacts of adopting the Master Parks plan are that the plan would provide the Parks, Recreation, and Events Department with some direction. And being the sole member of the Parks and Recreation Department on staff, I can tell you that would be a very welcome thing. It enables enhanced park maintenance. It provides a roadmap to maximizing the utility of the the municipal park system. So the decision slide. The town staff recommends that the council approve the execution of a Master Parks plan, approve the North Side Park plan, and approve the plan for Eleanor Park Phase 1 with the trail adaptation that keeps us within the grant amount that's already available. And So that is the recommendation for the town, and that is the end of our presentation. But first, I'd like to thank Art so much. He has held my hand through this whole process. I'm not coming from a Parks and Recreation background, but I have been a teacher for almost 30 years. So I recognize the value of Parks and Recreation. So thank you, Art, so much for helping us with all of this. And thank you to India for pushing me to become more than I thought I was. So I appreciate that.
As she does with all of us. Okay, we'll open it up for any questions to Mr. Thatcher or Ms. Adams first, and then we'll start to maybe tackle some of these decisions or go from there. But just general questions, any questions? All right, I see Mr. Wood, yes.
Yeah, just to dispel some notions. You have to use grant money for the purpose for which it was, right? So we couldn't decide that India's leaving us, so we could take some of that grant money and buy a really nice going away present.
No,
We have
you-
to use it
yeah.
for the purpose.
You could not do that. I do know that much.
So we'd be kind of dumb not to spend free money, right? Okay.
That's correct.
So now.
All right, hold on, because Mr. Wood, I think, yeah,
I'll just chime in, which I think JC's gonna say, but the funding related from this grant is unencumbered and to be spent on anything.
that's right.
However, I think the LCF will look very favorably if the money related to this grant is put back into our parks. There are some stipulations as it relates to Eleanor, but when we get to that, we can have that conversation. But for both of these park plans, this is exclusively would be funded from the grant and no taxpayer dollars would be utilized.
I see.
With some funds to be still left over.
I knew the answer was coming at you when you asked the question, go ahead.
Yeah, and in regard to a couple of concerns, and hopefully you'll allay those fears. Implementation of these two plans would mean that we need to bring a director up to full-time and add another employee, is that correct?
Well, that's the things that are listed in the plan, and actually maybe Art should answer this question. They're not necessarily meant to be you're advocating for or not advocating, you're passing the plan. Does not mean that the plan becomes instantly implemented. And I'm gonna let you speak to that.
So the plan is a strategic plan, it's a long range plan. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do everything within that plan immediately. What we are recommending and what we were asked to do is to evaluate the organization. And so in order for you to move to the next step, we would recommend that you hire a full-time director. Currently, you're working with a part-time director. In order to take the next step, hire a full-time director. And then as your programming continues to grow, that your director is not going to be able to do it all. So we recommend that as your programming grows, that you hire another full-time parks programmer, recreation programmer. They can be part-time. I mean, you can have two part-timers. You know, they can start part-time and then move into full-time. And you'll see that the time frame for that recommendation is short-term, which is that 1 to 3 year time frame. So it's not you adopt this and we think that, you know, and you have to put it into the next year's fiscal budget. It's something to consider over the next 3 years as the department continues to grow.
So I just wanted to make sure that we dispel any potential rumors. We have the money to pay for it as it stands now. Secondly, this is the implementation of a plan and not going from A to Z right away.
Correct.
And we can make changes all along the way.
Absolutely.
Thank
And that's one of the other things that we provide. We have a mantra of that your clients for life. And so if something comes up and you need to make modifications to the plan, I'm available to kind of help make those modifications and help you work through that process. Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, one of my big concerns was there was a lot in that plan that seemed like every time I looked and read another line, it was dollar signs. And I know one of the things I thought might be a good thing to ask the town manager, because she made the decision last year in the budget process to cut a full-time employee from Parks and Rec. Can we afford a full-time Parks and Rec director if we cut it out of the budget last year?
So there were some staffing considerations based on some staff changes that we had at that time and some decisions with part-time folks who are becoming more full-time part-time folks. So as it relates to affordability, that's obviously a conversation that council will need to have as a body ahead of the budget process, and that your future town manager can make in terms of recommendations for staffing that office to council as a final decision. But right now, you're accepting and adopting a plan. It is a plan. It by no means ties you financially to what is specifically in that plan. It can be tweaked based on revenues that are available or any future decisions that council may want to make as it relates to funding that department long term and in the short term.
Okay, that makes sense. So adopting this plan, I know we spent a lot of resources and $30,000 to get the plan drawn up, to do all the surveys and everything. So I don't want to fight that. I'm just curious why you guys chose to put the parks, development of parks in this plan, because it's kind of, to me, it seems like it should be two separate things.
I can answer that question initially. When they were tasked with prioritizing the parks because we had gotten direction from council as it relates to a park in the north side, as well as doing something with Eleanor Park after we had received the funds from the state long term. So they were tasked with looking at prioritizing that as a part of the plan. Also, as a reminder, the investment in the parks plan was to be able to go after and pursue additional grant funding, like we were very successful in doing in the first place, to be able to provide more amenities to the town to improve the quality of life long term.
And then another question, I noticed that these two parks seem to be the big focus. What's your takeaway from the other parks? Like, I know Castlewood, for example, the mayor and I talked about this before I was even on council. Making the parking lot that's kind of just a big mess in the middle of two different streets intersecting, fixing and making that safer. I didn't see any mention of that in this plan. Also, I know kind of the Washington Park, for example, is kind of probably in a little bit of a flux because there's a whole new development there and things need to be planned around that. I know we finally did resolve the mulch issues, but I think I forget the gentleman's name that came and did a lot of the surveys with us, but his concerns with the safety of the parks. Do we have a clear plan in here to address all safety concerns, or is there a suggestion to hire somebody? Because I know, what's his name, Mitchell?
Mr.
Mickle, yeah, he's, is there a suggestion in here to come and actually have somebody, pay somebody to do a actual safety assessment?
Well, there's nothing in the plan that precludes the council from looking to the future of the parks. But for tonight, the only three things that we're looking at are Eleanor Park Phase 1, Northside Park, and approving the plan, the adoption of the plan. The plan itself it's really a document that's a guide for us more than anything. And it has some leverage in it that the council is welcome to use to address some of those other needs.
Okay, all right. I wanna, before you continue, I just wanted to say I appreciate the plan, the task at hand that I understood from our strategic meeting and from the council's direction was, number one, we know that if we're gonna have a Parks and Rec department, then we need to understand what that means long term. What is its obligations? What are its goals? How is it going to operate? And that we needed help understand that because we had never done it before. And so that is a part of the plan, and that was one of the things we were tasked with. The next thing you were tasked with was if we are going to go after BLCF grant funds or other park grant funds, that we were going to need a document that supported what the needs and wants of the community were in order to justify those requests. So that is another piece of this. Now then, after receiving over $300,000, almost $400,000 in grant funds, which are unencumbered grant funds to use for the benefit and welfare of our community. We wanted to not just not know what to do with that money. We wanted clear, decisive, manageable, actionable items that could be done, because I've seen many of plans come through here in the planning commission to town council and before, sitting on that side of the aisle or this side of the aisle that sit on a shelf. And this whole body, I just wanted to see things that actually could be done. And that was very clear in this plan to me, that you all focused on that and that you asked questions of our citizens, of our community, that we're gonna reflect actionable items, which is partially why these things are phased. Also partially why when a group of mothers comes into our council meeting at public comment, which I don't know if you all recall, happened, begging us to put something in the north side of town because they have kids in strollers and they have no walkable amenity in that side of the community, while the rest of our town has several walkable amenities to it, that it was inequitable. And that this council needed to address that inequity. So I appreciate that you were very considerate of our town citizens' needs and requests, and that they were actionable in that way. I saw that throughout this plan. I saw it in the beginning. I saw it all the way through. I think that's why you're asking for actual decisions to be made, because you wanted a decision actionable plan that came with results and were not just words on paper that sat on a shelf. Also, we have funds to expend directly to this issue, and we needed to have strategic planning to make that happen, which is something that this town manager has done exceptionally well over and over again. So I appreciate all of that. We'll go into whether we make some of these decisions tonight or not, but the plan itself, I think, was exactly what council as a body talked about in our strategic planning meeting last January and the year before, about how do we tackle this Parks and Rec department? How do we provide for our community, our children and senior citizens across the board, not just one age group, better access, better quality of life and wellness, a healthy quality of life. It's in our vision statement. And if we don't use that vision statement as a guiding light and don't actually do things that help us get to the vision statement, then it's sort of a pointless vision statement, right? So that was part of making a vision statement into a reality. And all those things have taken months and months and months and months and months to do. Years, really. So to be honest with you, I thought this plan took a really long time. I've been waiting for you to come back. So you said by 2023, I didn't know that was in December of 2023. So I do have that one thing.
One of the things that extended the plan was the additional input that we got from the community over the two parks. Because they were such an integral part of the project and something that was really passionate with the community, we did extra engagement on both of those parks, which is what extended the delivery. We originally kind of hoped to get it to you in October, but we did about 3 months worth of additional engagement that pushed us to the end. But we're in 23.
I have to give you a hard time about something.
I know. I said we're in 23. No.
Okay, so I wanted to talk. I'll let Dr. Sullivan go next, but then I want to tackle this in 3 different segments, and however we decide to take those action items is fine by me. But first, we will just be the plan adoption. Okay, just make that clear. Okay, so we don't confuse and combobulate everything. Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, you mentioned this in your beautiful statement that you just made. But part of the reason that I was so excited about getting this master plan done was I have sent, and I'm sure other people have too, sent grant opportunities for funding of these 2 parks to JC and India many times, and applications have been made. And one of the things that stood in our way, correct me if I'm wrong, of getting those grants was the fact that we did not have a parks master plan, and that this plan is absolutely essential to maximizing the probability that we will be able to get funding for these parks and for improvements of other parks. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Williams?
Yes. One of my, very good tonight. One of my concerns when we were going through this process was the maintenance of the parks. Because, you know, every time you add a new park or enhance a park, like for example, right now, it's just one big lawnmower going through Eleanor Park, but pretty soon it's gonna be somebody weed trimming and spending probably extra hours there. And I was hoping for some numbers on the maintenance of our parks, like how much a year it costs us to maintain our parks the way they currently are, and how much it will cost to maintain them as proposed. Were you able to get those figures for us, or, you know?
We did not dig that deep into your budget. That was kind of not part of the overall scope that we had. And you know, based on your current situation with your park maintenance being in public works, it's sometimes it's hard to pull some of those numbers out for what is exactly spent on parks, and what is spent elsewhere, your man hours and those things. So it was not part of really the full report.
Okay, and did you have any engagement with the maintenance people from Public Works? Okay,
Yeah, absolutely.
so, okay, thank you.
I will add that we've been leveraging City Works and specific work orders related to parks maintenance. So we should have some updated numbers in the next budget process to help guide maintenance of the parks and to right size that line items for the budget.
Okay, so like I mentioned, we're gonna break this up a little bit. We're just talking about the adoption of the master plan final report. And I'd like to put that motion on the table. Do I have a second to the adoption of the master plan? Okay, it is motioned and seconded. Is there further discussion of adopting the master plan? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And I heard everybody say aye, so I think we're good on that. Okay, now we'll go to the next line item. And it's involved in this, just trying to split it up into sort of manageable pieces, is the allocation of funding. And I say that before we make any kind of decision about this kind of stuff. I think we need to understand the financial side of it as a piece, a holistic piece, okay? So we're talking about the BLCF grant funds. We have the total in front of us. That is resolution 51-23. This resolution just talks about the allocations of those grant funds, which are carryover funds. These are funds we received last fiscal year. And they have been carried over. They are not budgetary funds as far as like taxes are concerned. So that is when you carry funds over, you have to make an amendment, you have to have a motion, you have to have a vote in order to do that. So that's part of the procedural process of this. In this resolution, there is a for these two, that is splitting these funds into two places. The first is an allocation of $225 to the Azalea Park project. Without making any of those other decisions, we understand what the concept is and all that kind of stuff, okay? Now let's get into some details about colors, okay? This is bigger than that. And then an allocation of $90,000 to complete phase 1 of the Eleanor Park project, which in general includes pathway design, landscaping, fulfilling the requirements of the BLCF grant funds. Is that my understanding? Fulfilling like the shrubbery kinds of.
There is a requirement for a riparian buffer that will be fulfilled as part of this.
Okay, right, so which we fill those requirements and close out with this, then expenditure close out that grant, would that be then?
The grant's already closed.
Okay.
We are still obligated to do that under the grant agreement, but all the
Okay.
precedent files,
But would this accomplish all the
Yes.
agreed upon requirements of the grant?
there would be no more obligations.
Okay, that would be checking that box off. I just wanna understand all the implications across the board on it. And that's what's being proposed to us by both you, Mr. Thatcher, and our town staff. This is the recommendation in front of us right now. Just split these funds into these two places in these quantities of funds. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna bring a motion about just this, the fiscal resolution 5123. Do I have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, let's open that for discussion. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Williams?
Yeah. I've all along I've been a big proponent of the North Park. But I have some serious concerns. We're talking 225,000, and you know how government processes work. It's usually a lot more than what we say, so we'll probably be looking at $250,000 for a park on a third of an acre. In a residential neighborhood. That potentially only 5 to 12-year-olds or 2 to 5-year-olds can play on. I think we should probably hold this and put this to a future vote where the community can give a little bit more input, since we're talking about this kind of money, 315,000. And that's my major concern, and the fact that we've got 15-year-old sewage pumps that are failing on a regular basis at the water sewer treatment plant. We got $3.5 million of needs, and this money actually could be spent for stuff like that. You know, this is pretty stuff, it's nice, but really, honestly, we've got, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I know the rest of the council won't agree with this, but we need to put a Band-Aid on some of the serious problems we have before we start developing our parks. That's my 2 cents.
Yes, Ms. Brown?
Well, I agree with you, sir. These are funds that we have to use for these reasons.
No,
These can be used for anything.
no, we can use it for anything.
But to qualify for that grant,
No,
So we have some obligation to Eleanor Park
okay,
from the grant funds, but the majority of the funds are unburdened.
what is the obligation for Elmore Park? Due to the grant?
Just as some background for everybody, the grant project itself was the permanent preservation of Elmore Park. So once the land was preserved, the application had already been successful. Then the land was preserved legally, then we received the funds and the project was complete, but for this one last shrubbery installation for a riparian buffer.
Okay.
So those funds were for the actual preservation of the land. And now we can do it.
I do think there's an expectation though from the community that came out, I mean, that was probably one of the biggest political struggles this town faced for over a decade. And it was corrosive to operations, to be totally honest with you. I didn't really I know people may think I thought one way or the other, all I wanted was to move on. From it. It was so corrosive, but I think that in moving on, there is an expectation that if we have done this and we have gotten these funds, that there's gonna be some benefit, some actual physical improvement there. Is my understanding as of sitting through the countless hours of public comment.
I agree, and after the 2 to 3 months that you all put in asking for citizens input, I mean, I just don't understand why there would be a pushback.
Mr. Wood?
Well, as far as the Zalo Park project, that's a half a block from my house. My neighborhood is full of kids. They need a place to play. They ask me all the time, when's this project gonna happen? First of all, we have an obligation to our community. Yes, we have a lot of infrastructure problems, and we need to fix those. No one wants to fix them more than I do, and that's part of the reason that we passed the utility fees. That's the reason we had the tap fees. That's what those are for, and we need to apply them to that. But to say that we can't spend anything on our kids because we've been irresponsible in the past with our infrastructure, it doesn't cut it. So kids need a place to play, they need a chance to be safe, and to pull out the trope of, well, it's government, so it's gonna automatically be a cost overrun. We have control over that. Council has control over that through each and every step. So I'm wholeheartedly for it. Cause I wanna see the kids in my neighborhood have a safe place to play. And when you put up that pirate ship, I'm gonna hoist the Jolly Roger.
Okay, we're again voting with the motion on the floor is resolution 5123, which is the allocation of the carryover grant funds.
Yes,
I saw his hand first and then I'll go to you. Okay.
I just wanted to clarify, I am not against a park on the north side of town. I'm just saying for budgetary reasons that we should really look at this a little closer, and a month isn't gonna kill anything. That was my whole.
Madam Mayor, I think there were 60-some families that signed the petition. When the residents of the Meadows came in, and the Bluffs, and they have been very patient. And they have not hounded us like some of our citizens do. But we kept in contact with them, and we told them when they came in that it wasn't gonna happen in the last budget year. That there was hoops we needed to jump through in order to get there. And we've gotten there, and we have the money now to do this. And while we have other needs, we are working on those other problems with other funding. $6 million of which was gotten through the process that our town manager got for us towards those infrastructure problems. So $225,000 sounds like a lot of money. But when you look at the future of the kids and the health and well-being of that community, I don't think it's much.
Is there any other comments on this resolution?
I do have one more question for JC, because I think part of the whole process of the Parks Master Plan was to get something on paper so that we could qualify for grants and stuff like that. And specifically, the North Park was one of the top things that Karen even mentioned in applying for grants. Now that we're go ahead and just committing to expending this money for that, does that completely preclude us from any kind of grants for that project?
Once the funds are committed, you can't combine it at that point, correct?
Okay, thank you.
However, we wanted to go back to one of these conservation organizations and put that park into a permanent easement. We could probably get more funding for that, right? That could be used unencumbered.
Potentially, and to bolster the town manager's point earlier, spending the money in this way, not only send a good message to the residents, but will send a good message to the state, showing that if we're given this money for conserving land, we will invest it in similar kind of areas.
Yeah, we've kind of given the state 2 bangs for their buck.
And then so when we go back next time and want to preserve, say, Town Hill, for maybe an even larger amount of money, would be in a very good position.
Okay. All right, so is there any other discussion on the motion at hand? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna do a roll call other than this one, I feel like. Dr. Sullivan?
Absolutely, aye.
Brown? Aye. Mr. Allison?
Aye.
R.
That's an aye.
Nay.
Mr. Lynn? Aye. And aye, very good, so we're past that part now. Okay, as far as, I know you guys are asking for some decisions, some aesthetic. We don't need that. We do need that. We don't need that. Yeah, I would think. Thank you.
I was just hoping to add a little boost of fun since it is a park.
I think I would like to have, we had the toter program go out as a survey, you, with an option. I
I
thought
think
that was
that-
kind of effective.
Yeah, one of the decisions is, do we wanna go with the 2 to 5 or the 5 to 12 age, is that correct?
Yes.
And I understand that the older age park has special accommodations for accessibility, and that there are modifications that can be made for the toddlers in that. So I think given the nature of the neighborhood, the age of the children that are there, and the potential for having small changes made to accommodate toddlers, I would argue to go ahead and let's move forward with it and.
All right, I want to hear from Mr. Allison.
So like you mentioned, Dr. Karen, that we had multiple families sign a petition per se and come to the Parks and Rec Advisory Commission and visit us here. You know, expressing the need and want for a park in that area. It'd probably be best to go back to them and ask them which option fits well within their community. Because if they're gonna be the ones walking there, I mean, I know it takes time to do these things. These kids might be 5 years old by the time we get done. So I think it'd be prudent to ask the community that this will be servicing to make sure that it fits, you know, within their wheelhouse of children in the area. That's all.
Yeah, I think, I'd like to have their input too on that decision. Yes, Mr. Williams.
Is it normal to kind of segregate the park to just have certain ages? Like, are other parks like that? Like, is Castlewood like that? Is Washington, Torrey Smith, are they like that?
I'm not sure about those, but I can tell you on a national level, yes, it is typical to have a playground that has age-specific sections to it. Since this is just a single structure, and I apologize that we don't have the full conceptual plan of the entire park, which kind of would show you everything within that park and how it is, it's inclusive of the entire community. It's not just this playground piece, but there's a seating wall and there's the perimeter trail and those things that will bring other segments of the community into the park, not just this playground. Your point of using this kind of 5 to 12, that is the kind of the generally accepted style playground that is put into, if it's a single structure, because as you mentioned, as we talked about in the master plan, there are opportunities to adapt this so that there are sections of this that are appropriate for that younger age group.
I have a 4-year-old. We just got back from Boulder, Colorado, and there were literally just rocks downtown. It was fantastic. So I think some of this little pieces that are on the ground there in that track, 4-year-olds like to run tracks. They like to run in circles. Those accommodate.
I got a 2-year-old grandson that's chasing all the time.
Those are just from personal experience in real time right now. That age group really can has a good time with that kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think we're going to get some community input on those kinds of decisions. Sound good? Okay. Next decision-making thing or? India, are we good?
Actually, it's slide 17, yeah.
So the only other thing is, as we kind of look at that, do you want to consider the Danbridge Road concept of adding the parking in phase 1 by closing that to two-way traffic?
Making it a one-way route with parking alongside.
And I understand that's would save how much money?
They don't have a dollar amount.
The parking was projected to be 80,000.
Yeah.
It's gonna be on site. We're gonna have to build full parking on the park, but if we're just adapting the street, all we have to do is paint the lines and block. It could be much cheaper.
I think it seems like a reasonable solution, but I'd like that one to go to the strategic plan. That was Mr. Allison's suggestion.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you don't need to make that, but that's just, that would kind of be the next step to kind of moving forward with Elmer.
Well,
Go ahead.
like the meeting with the parents, right? We should probably talk to the surrounding community in that area to identify that is an option, and if they have any problems with that being a one-way street. I mean, no one's gonna yell at us more than the people that don't like it. So we need to make sure that we're engaging the community before we make
a street one way.
I think it's a good idea. Yes,
I'm
Mr.
just gonna
Williams.
say, I live there and drive there on that street every day and I'm 100% against it. I mean, you can barely get one car down that road and there's a ditch that literally goes 3 feet into the ground right there.
There's a very
It's,
significant-
that would be a terrible idea, but that's my opinion.
Okay, so
We talked to one local.
one local person. Okay, so maybe we'll bring these decisions up more at the strategic meeting and do some more community engagement before we add that piece into it. I think it's good to explore cost saving options though in that way. You looking for more on this? Okay,
Thank you all very much.
all right,
Thank you.
stay in budget. Okay, next up is gateway signage.
Good afternoon again. This is an update on signage and seeking approval for gateway signage. Over the last few years, we've been discussing gateway signage beautification efforts and improving signage throughout town. Just as a matter of background, we've installed beach signage with the help of the foundation in 2022. We've installed parking directional signage in 2023 with grant funds. Also worked on boardwalk restroom signage in 2023. Our oyster water signage will be unveiled this month. We also have redesigned and procured additional flowbird signage to be installed at our park this season of 2024. So what we're looking for today is approval from council to proceed with the approval on gateway design and funding for the gateway design that you see there with the helm. And that's it.
Okay, and the funds for this are coming from excess parking revenue.
Correct.
Where are the gateway signs supposed to go?
Where our current signs are, our current gateway signs are currently.
On 205?
Correct.
Okay. And is that the welcome to Colonial Beach that were recently repainted? Is that?
Yeah, I think they were repainted a few years ago.
Yeah, those ones.
Okay.
I think the one across from Food Lion did not get repainted and most people don't even know it's there because it looks so bad.
So there's one just past Wilkerson's on
Correct.
the way into town and the one kind of across the street from Food Lines on the way into town. Thank you.
Are these two-sided? Sorry, I didn't.
No, they're one side.
Well, I saw the sign when I was traveling that said, thanks for visiting on the back. And I thought that was a very nice gesture. You're gonna spray paint it on there. You touch one of these signs, you're kind of.
I questioned the one-sided signs once before when this came up, and I think somebody told me that the highway department says that all signs should be painted for approach on the right side, and if you want a sign when you exit, it needs to be on the other side of the road, is what I remember. I can't remember who said that, but it was in a meeting, because I questioned before, why can't you read this on both sides of the sign?
I know, I'm not trying to throw a wrench in this, I just didn't know if there was thank you for visiting Colonial Beach, Virginia, or something on the back.
So we get two sides.
Okay. All right, we've seen these signs, this is not new, this design came out a while ago. I think this is just moving forward with actually implementing them. Is there a motion to approve the gateway signage?
So moved.
There's
Second.
Is there further discussion? Yes, Mr. Williams.
I mean, even though I do like the idea of having a nice sign, $40,000 would buy. Say for example, several hundred feet of sidewalk that's, people are tripping and stumbling all over the place, so. I can't really support this at this point.
Okay, any other discussion? Yes, Ms. Brown?
I just had a question about the signage. Will it be lit? If we go through this, will it be lit at night or any kind of lighting to? Just asking.
I think we can follow up with Public Works to see if a spotlight can be added to it, but our current signs are not lit, but that's something we can explore.
Great, thanks.
Good idea. And that much money, we should light it up enough. Okay, any further discussion on this? All right, I'll go this way this time. Mr. Wood, aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye. I think it's part of economic development. It's gonna be an investment long term. All right. Next up, ordinance 752. Men's Stockton Fire Prevention Protection. Mr. Duggan.
Good evening. This is a continuation for the last meeting where this was discussed, and my direction from council, the consensus was that go back and add a notice provision. So I have done that in this. And there was also a reference to another part of the ordinance that had been repealed. So I changed that to the state fire code. And there's some confusion about what it meant by permit to display, because they included language about selling fireworks, which would make you think a display to sell fireworks, but the fireworks is defined under the state is really the stuff you shoot up in the sky, and it's not legal to sell this in Virginia. So they're permissible fireworks that would be legal, but so I made those changes. And the notice provision is simply that before somebody starts a fire outside of a confined area, such as a fire pit, they should notify the fire chief and also the town clerk. And there will be a form for that on the town's website. I'll be glad to answer your questions.
We held public input at the November meeting on this, and I just want to thank Ms. Brown and the fire chief for bringing their concerns so we could incorporate that into the ordinance and address those things while we were doing these updates. It was good feedback.
Yeah, as soon as I sat down to read the agenda this week, I texted Chief Roby and President Antoine Smith and said, we got it in there. So they were really happy. So now it's gonna be implementation and hopefully people do it and all the good stuff, but at least we have it, you know, in the code. So that's great. So thanks for doing that. They're really
Thank you for the
happy.
suggestion.
They're really happy.
All right, is there a motion to pass ordinance number 752?
So moved.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I think this one can go in. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up, public hearings. Oh, Don, you're the star of the show tonight. Public hearing on first, I guess we're doing the conditional use permit language. And then we will be doing a public hearing on the site plan language, and then we will be doing the conditional use permit request. So the planning commission's been very busy and we see their fruits of their labor. All right, I'm going to give us a quick intro to it, and then I'll open the official public comment for it. And we'll go from there.
Evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Zoning text amendment 2305 is a town initiative to amend Article 16 conditional use permits of the Colonial Beach zoning ordinance. The amendments are intended to first augment the statement of intent in Article 16 to explain why there is no inherent right to be granted a conditional use permit by the town, to create specific submittal requirements for CUP applications, as there's currently none specifically specified in the ordinance. Also to update the provisions pertaining to determining the completeness of a conditional use permit application, to update the CUP administrative processes to ensure timely application reviews, recordation of approved CUPs, and post application processing. Also to amend Article 16 for clarity, consistency, and compliance with the Code of Virginia, and again to improve the clarity of the text within Article 16. The last update to Article 16 was in October of 2006. Flash forward to March 2023, the Planning Commission added the review and update to Article 16 to its approved work plan. The Commission, staff, and the town attorney all collaborated on the review and update to Article 16. Formal review of the Article 16 occurred during the Planning Commission meetings of August 10th and October 12th this year, and including November 9th. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of zoning text amendment 2305 for Article 16 to the Town Council during its November 9th, 2023 meeting. At that meeting, no public comments were received during the public hearing on the zoning text amendments. So the issue at hand is comprehensive update Article 16 of the zoning ordinance to improve the quality and effectiveness of the ordinance to meet the needs of the town. That said, the Commission's alternatives include to ordain or adopt the proposed ordinance 753 under zoning text amendment 2305 as drafted. The Commission could direct to make changes to the draft ordinance and return to council. Third, the council could remand proposed revisions to Article 16 back to the Planning Commission for further study, consideration, or changes based on council review and feedback, or to retain Article 16 as codified in the town zoning ordinance at this time. Next slide is fiscal impact. Staff is not anticipating any fiscal impact to the town's general fund with proposed changes. Staff's recommendation to the town council is to ordain the adoption of ordinance 753 for zoning text amendment 2305 as recommended by the Planning Commission and your town staff. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions of the council.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to do the public comment that was notified, and then we'll open it up for a council discussion after that. You ready? Okay. So I will open public comment 8:25 p.m. for ordinance 753.
We only have one, and it was by email from Mr. Knuckles.
Is there anybody in person that would like to speak, please? Okay, we'll go ahead with the email.
All right. Mr. Knuckles writes in his public comment regarding section 16.8, reviewed by the Planning Commission. 13, to be consistent with the time limits identified in the Code of Virginia, the time limit for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation on the CUP application to the town council is proposed to be increased from 90 to 100 days. I am writing in support of this modification. I have at times heard opposition to any increases in time frame for Planning Commission reviews. However, given real world limitations on the Commission's capacity to conduct meaningful reviews and our limited staff's capacity to support the analysis, those longer review periods are sometimes mistakenly characterized as anti-business or unfriendly to growth. But I would contend that a thorough and meaningful review of CUP proposals protects existing businesses and residential uses, and that protection views that are already in place should be respected and not minimized. A thoughtful review is pro-business and pro-colonial beach. In reality, the 100 days could be, in cases of very complex proposals, still too short, but the change from 90 to 100 is a step in the right direction. Keep in mind, this is the time limit, not the typical time for most proposals. I encourage you to adopt this revision as a part of proposed larger changes to the code proposed at the meeting. And that's it.
Okay. Nobody else to speak at the public hearing? I will close it at 27 p.m. and open it up for council discussion. Like
Madam Mayor, I move that we adopt the resolution as presented for the zoning text amendment.
okay, it's been first and seconded, it's open for discussion.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to make a text change. For. Spot, so give me just a second. It's pretty simple. So. Sorry. On 16.2. There is a section. Talks about section 16.2 B, then B again. The name, address, and telephone number of the property owner and applicant, and then the next line says the name, address, phone number, signature for the seal. Can we change telephone on number on B, just phone, just to be consistent? And I know that's kind of mundane, but
Got it?
it's.
Taking off the tele.
Yeah, take off the color, just say phone number, consistent with the rest. I looked through the rest of it and didn't see any other telephone, just phone, so.
Okay, the rest is consistent, show you that one. One word, okay. Are there any objections to consistency of the number of words?
I'll modify my motion to accept it as amended by Mr. Allison.
Fantastic. Okay, is there any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, just
I'm sorry, we need a second, I think,
Oh,
going forward.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
just a quick question, Mr. Dooley. I did attend one of the meetings. I don't think it was the very last when you guys finalized everything, but I know a couple had concerns over the town's business friendly aspects and stuff. Can you let us know, like, anything you might have done in this that addresses some of the concerns of business friendly? I know that, we're getting ready to do a CUP tonight, and I know there was a lot of controversy over whether it was town was dragging the feet or what was going on with it, and just the, the overall process not being consistent and all that. So have you addressed any of those concerns with this update?
I think that the broad answer to that is that we provided language in the CUP ordinance update that allows for greater flexibility of myself as Director of Community Development to waive submittal requirements if they're not needed in every case. We've also extended, for example, the timeline from originally from 15 days to 30 days for applicants to respond to incompleteness letters that we received from staff for applications. So we've done things throughout the ordinance to either allow more time for an applicant or to allow for flexibility in the submittal requirements.
Okay, and I think I remember from part of the discussion, some of you guys changed the language to add that it was mandatory for I don't know, a preliminary meeting or something in order to ensure everything was in place so that people wouldn't drop the ball and lose things or miss out on, expediently.
And that, yes, sir. And that was a large part of that was to enable staff to be able to understand the project, to determine whether or not some of the submittal requirements were applicable, so that we didn't have applicants turning in information that wasn't necessary.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All right, and do a roll call vote. I'm gonna totally mix it up. Ms. Robertson, how do you know? Aye. Mr. Allison.
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wood?
Aye.
And Dr. Sullivan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Excellent. They're just making sure people still wait. Okay. Don, stay up there. Next one, 754. Site plan.
Mayor and Council, zoning text amendment 2306 is county initiative to amend Article 14, the site plan of the Colonial Beach zoning ordinance to clarify the types of projects that require a site plan and those that do not. To update the major and minor site plan submittal requirements to facilitate plan checks and eliminate unnecessary submittal information. To incorporate specific site plan submittal requirements for new single-family dwellings, which was adopted for major and minor site plans, so there's consistency for our building community moving forward. To improve the clarity of the text within Article 14, and to update the site plan review and approval process to ensure accountability. Specifically, section 14.8A was amended to require that all approved site plans be stamped and signed by town staff. That hadn't occurred in the past, and so staff wanted to close that gap. Under background, the last update to Article 14 was in October of 2011. Again, in March of 23, the Planning Commission added the review and update to Article 14 to its approved work plan. Again, the commission staff and the town attorney, as we do, all collaborated on the review and update of Article 14. A formal review of Article 14 occurred during the Planning Commission meetings October 12th and November 9th of 2023. The commission unanimously recommended approval of zoning text amendment 2306 or Article 14 to the town council during its public meeting on November 9th, 2023. And again, no public comments were received during the public hearing on this. So with that, staff recommends that the town council ordain ordinance 754 under zoning text amendment 2305 as recommended by the planning commission and town staff. And that concludes my presentation, and happy to answer any questions that you have on this item.
Okay. We will open up the public comment, public hearing for this item. All the same procedure. I open public hearing at 8:35 p.m. And is there anybody signed up? Anybody signed up? Is there any submissions by email? Not to this one. Okay, is there anybody in the audience that'd like to come on? Okay. All right, I will close it then at 8:36. Say there was a pause. All right, now this is up for council discussion. We want a motion and second and discuss. Okay. Do we want to discuss first and then make a motion? So we don't have to amend the motion so much? Let's do that. Let's have some discussion to that.
So
You wanna start us
I'll
off?
go
Yes.
first. 14-4, the major site plan requirements, 2 and 3, same thing, telephone and phones. As well as 14-5 for 2 and 3 telephone, and then there is one. Section B, 2 and 3, same thing, telephone, and then on line number 13, there's a period after ordinance where it says ordinance 14. Just remove the period. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve this plan as amended by Councilman Allison.
Okay,
Second.
all right. So we've got through that one. Is there any others? I have two. Anybody else?
Discussion?
Discussion or changes that you want to, yes, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, Mr. Dooley, one of the things that the constituents brought up in the past, I just wanted to see if this is addressed in this new site plan thing, is that sometimes the town would approve something and it would go over to the county, and something, a new site plan or something would have been changed or edited. So does your stamping these plans, does that address that? And have you seen any issues with that since this new implementation?
I have not seen, or I'm not aware of any inherent issues with the problem your constituent has identified. We stamp all plans as well as assign the zoning permits. Significant changes to the site plan would require coming back for a new stamp. And that might be the result of footprint of the building changing or increasing impervious surface coverage. Those types of things would have to come back to town staff to review. But aside from that, we've not had that issue.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I have two things. First is, in considering the site plan, requirements in major and minor, I just want to clarify, a pier would then qualify as a minor site plan?
It would be a minor site plan because if there would be a primary structure that would be associated with the property.
So that's not necessarily the case, including beach piers can be primary structures?
That is true, they could be, yes.
So
But
again,
it would be a little bit more unusual to see that happen because usually associated with existing single family homes or on the property. But it could happen, yes.
I think it is common for somebody to add a pier to a pre-existing dwelling.
Yes.
So then it would not be, it would again qualify as a minor site plan?
If it didn't. If they were in the RPA, for example, that might require additional evaluation. That might.
I mean, it's a pier, so they're obviously in the RPA.
Correct. If there was additional impervious surface coverage that was added to the property, for example, there was a walkway or some other construction that was involved, we may need to get a major site plan out of it. It's just sort of on a context basis.
Okay, well, one of the reasons I asked this question is because supporting our maritime and water access is a priority for residents in town. It's certainly something that over, I think, a long history, the town has prioritized to make access to water and water recreation as easy of a process as possible. And I just want to make sure that that still is consistent then when we adopt this new site plan, that this process for constructing a pier has typically been the site plan that's required already by multiple agencies to disturb the, land beneath the water. And so is that documentation adequate for the town, or is the town now asking people to go above and beyond the documentation already required by those agencies?
I think Darla
Sure.
might want to add something to the discussion.
I need to go up here. Can everybody hear me?
No, they can't online.
Go ahead and go up there because the great thing online. Thank you.
So in response to the question relative to piers, that is something that is, because it's in the Chesapeake Bay area, there are requirements that we have in the ordinance under a plan of development that goes along with that work being done in the resource protection area, like as Mr. Dooley was stating, relative to what the land disturbance is if there are pier permits. There's nothing in this ordinance that makes that more restrictive. One of the things that the plan of development in the current ordinance and the site plan just requires that there be an engineer or land surveyor sign that. There is a little bit more information that the town needs besides what gets submitted to the state agencies. And that is because the state agency is really concerned with what's happening in the water. The town is concerned in enforcing Chesapeake Bay regulations of what's occurring on the land, and that has to do with the land disturbance. The setback from the pier from the side property lines, but we try to use as much information that's on that state permit as we can.
Okay, I just asked that because I think there needs to be a clear expectation for everybody that goes through a peer permit that I think oftentimes it's their assumption that all the work they've had to do in order to get through these state agencies, that there is a site plan that's signed by an engineer, you know, in order to get through that process. So I just want to make sure we're not adding any additional restrictions in that. It's not really addressed here, and that's kind of why I'm asking for clarity ahead of voting on this, if we should clearly address it in the ordinance as a minor site plan.
You know, we, as a matter of course, staff is always looking at trying to approve projects, you know, as easy as possible. It benefits the applicant, it benefits staff from a work standpoint. Staff does have the ability to, under our major and minor site plan, to require additional information if it's absolutely necessary to be able to fulfill the intent or spirit of the code. I can't think of a situation where somebody's going to be inundated with any significant changes to what's already been approved by the state.
Okay, so again, the direction of if somebody's building up here would be that they are producing a minor site plan or a major one?
It would most likely be a minor site plan. Again, it has to be context based, depending on the situation. But for the most part, I would tell you that it's going to be a minor site plan.
Okay.
Because it's going to be signed by an engineer as part of the preparation of the plan.
Okay, it's not addressed here, I just wanna see where the
Yes,
direction was on there. Okay, and then the only other thing I had was on single, on 14-1A1. The very first thing is that single family dwellings, obviously, is a major site plan, not a minor site plan. However, you've addressed single family dwellings in a unique way to 14-5. So I read this and initially saw single family dwelling went to 14-4, which is on the same exact physical page, and then thinking it was not clear to me that there was a 14-5 until you get down to 14-4. So I'd like to add the text next to single family dwellings per 14-5. We just like to add that a reference note to link them there, so that as soon as you read that, you're not.
I think it's a great comment. Thank you.
Is there consensus to add that 14? Okay.
I'm madly in love with it.
Madly in love with it. Sorry, and I know you guys are like probably glazing over, and I could talk about it today, and I just really appreciate our zoning department that just really go above and beyond, are doing some great things, and our planning commission too. Appreciate all the effort into this, a lot of work. Okay, that's all I had. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all right, so do we wanna a motion with the amendments, which was never really made because we just.
That was made in second.
It was not on this one. Okay, I want to a motion of ordinance 754 with the amendments that we discussed in motion.
With Kenny's and yours.
Correct.
Yes, that's the motion.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Okay. Mr. Wood?
Aye.
Ms. Williams? Aye. Ms. Roberts? Aye. Aye. Ms. Sullivan? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay. And I know we didn't have any public comment on either of those, but I just want to let people know, I did send both those ordinances over to some of the builders and surveyors that work in the town to see if there was comment from them ahead of time. Everybody seemed to be fine. What was there? Okay.
Mayor, if I may just to add to your comment, we've been using those standards as a matter of policy for the past several months. And I think we've found a nice happy medium with the builders in the community. No one seems have any problem with the standards that we're using that we've now codified for single family homes. So I think we made a nice step forward from last year.
Yeah, speaking about the single family checklists that people are using now to send in the plans, and that really has streamlined the process and
Everybody's adapted.
So
All right, I know we've been waiting here for quite some time. Conditional use permit for Washington Square Partners.
Madam Chair, members of council, the case before you is conditional use permit 23-002. But if you'll allow me to start with, I just wanted to say that I have a proud moment because y'all been talking about pirates tonight, and I'm all for that. My son followed in my footsteps. I followed in my mom's footsteps and many family members. And I can tell you that he not only was around 2,000 pirates, but he's been around basically about 40,000 pirates over the last 4 years. But he's graduating on December the 15th from East Carolina University. So the application before you is conditional use plan development and conditional use permit for Washington Square properties. They are seeking approval to permit a mobile vending courtyard in the resort commercial RC zoning district. The zoning ordinance defines these as a property on which one or more mobile vending vehicles are located. It's not allowed to be a storage yard, and the ordinance requires a conditional use permit for these uses. The zoning ordinance designates uses like this as uses that need approval of a conditional use permit, because due to these uses' unique characteristics or potential impacts on surrounding properties and the town, it requires special consideration or individual consideration of their design, configuration, or operation at a particular location. I'm gonna be in this slide, man. Oh, okay, I was intending. You're fine. So the ordinance provides guidance. You can see this here. Basically, when you're considering a conditional use permit, we look at the impacts that use may have on the surrounding properties, the surrounding communities, as you can see here. And oftentimes, with the conditional use permit, staff will recommend conditions that will help to minimize those impacts on the surrounding properties. Next slide. So I'm not gonna go over this. It's a quick 2 1-acre property. It's right over there. You all know where it's at. So I'm not gonna go over this one. The property is a zoned resort commercial RC, and that's the subject property. This is also looking into the subject property, which you know. There are surrounding uses to the subject property that include restaurants, other commercial uses, and the subject property is located within an area designated as Historic Resort Commercial District by the town's comprehensive future land use plan. The future land uses in this area are intended to provide recreational and business opportunities designed to foster tourism. Because of this designation, it is important that these uses are respectful to the surrounding properties and the historical character of this area. Next slide. This is the conceptual plan submitted by the applicant. They are proposing a mobile vending courtyard for up to 7 mobile vendors. They have provided in their application that they would locate 5 mobile vendors on the site during the first year, and then the other 2 would come on probably within the second year. If you look at this slide, in the northern part of the slide, those 5 units, those 5 units there would be the units that would come on first. They have a circled area that's for the the patrons to sit on the property, as well as 2 picnic tables up front. And then there's a future pavilion that you see there in the back. The next slide, please. The applicants are proposing to provide underground electrical service as well as public water and sewer hookups to the site that will then, they would be used by the mobile vendors. The public utilities are currently on site, and there are 2 existing meters. The applicant provided that there would be frost-free faucets that would be near the units to serve the units, and they also would have waste disposal for them. As far as trash, the leases would be in charge of making sure that their area is kept clean, free of waste, maintaining their mobile vending vehicles, and they would require that for all of their leaseholders. The next slide. This is a conceptual landscaping plan that's proposed. If you look at this slide, the applicant has, and I'm sure you all have seen, that the applicants have installed some fencing, privacy fencing in some areas, split rail fencing along the sides to the north and south. And up towards the east, there's been privacy fencing installed. The applicants are proposing to offer shrubs and trees. We've been talking about this conceptual plan. The idea behind that is to, you know, minimize visibility of the mobile vending backsides, the activity, that kind of thing. So prior to operation, the applicants are going to identify for us through their landscaping plan the species, the spacing, and, you know, the planting that they're going to do to help minimize the visual impact of that mobile vending activity. Again, minimize is different than screen, but so we have that. Next slide, please. The conditions that are recommended in this case would address the overall site design, noise, hours of operation, landscaping, trash removal, and site maintenance, cessation of the use or certain mobile vending units, lighting, and the site plan and permit approval requirements prior to operation. Next slide, please. Following their public hearing on November 9th, the Planning Commission, with a unanimous vote, and staff both recommend approval of this request to you, subject to the conditions in attachment A, for the following reasons. The proposed commercial use of the property complies with the future land use recommendations of the town's comprehensive plan, which suggests the property is appropriate for recreational and business opportunities designed to foster tourism. The mobile vending vehicles are temporary structures. However, if they are maintained, and the site is well maintained, then the use would complement the Central Beach area. And then finally, while there are several impacts to consider with locating these courtyards, such as the outdoor activity, the odor, the trash, the aesthetics, as conditioned, the impact on the area properties should be mitigated. Now, at the Planning Commission meeting, there were several people who spoke in support of this request, and there were a couple of comments made about visibility from properties to the east, and then also at Willie's, that's an adjacent restaurant use, relative to ensuring that the mobile vendor courtyards do not detract from the existing restaurants, the existing brick and mortar restaurants, and that also that, you know, is there ample parking in the area? The ordinance does allow, they're not proposing any on-site parking at all, and the ordinance does not require that within this area, provided that you have parking spaces. Well, first provided that it's a transitory type use, which this is a transitory type use, provided that you have parking spaces within 500 feet, which they do, obviously. So with that, staff, I'm glad to answer any questions.
How would the assessment or the access fees and the tap fees be handled?
I am not, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know about those. I think that is a question that, I have heard, from the, applicant. And I know there have been some discussions, about the difference between my understanding, and again, the applicant can share any conversations they may have had with Public Works. My understanding is the two existing taps were put in as residential taps. And now they're proposing for commercial use, and that's the extent of my knowledge relative to those taps, but Public Works will have to.
You don't have any conditions of the taps for the cup?
No, we don't have nothing in this.
Okay, so what we're voting on tonight doesn't preclude that still be worked on.
It's gonna be a post-approval review by Public Works to determine what those tap fees are gonna be.
Okay.
Fortunately, Spader's not here to further clarify that tonight, but no, that would not be part of what you're approving tonight.
There are no conditions in here that address the tap fees.
Okay. I wanna make sure we do the public comment part first, the public hearing part, and then we'll have more questions and discussion from council. Okay. All right, so open it up for public comment at 8:59 p.m. Is anybody? Yes? Any people signed up? to speak?
First is Miss Lori Moore. Yeah.
Madam Mayor, members of Town Council. I'd like to say that on 134 4th Street, I go to the majority of Town Council and Planning Commission meetings. The Griffies have been trying to get this approved, or the idea is approved, for a very long time. I hope we can finally have Town Council approve this tonight and put this to rest. I also serve on the Economic Development Committee, and I know at all these various meetings over the last year and a half that our chairman or members of the committee have also spoken in favor of this. Thank you.
Next is Eric Nelson.
Good evening again, Eric Nelson, 1321 Lossing Avenue. I've also spoken in support of this effort, this project for several times, both the Planning Commission and here. I do support the project, and I now have a slightly different perspective because I now am connected to Circa 1892, a food establishment in the same area. And I think having the mobile food truck court there would be a great positive for the vitality of the area, and would enhance the opportunities for restaurants like ours and other restaurants in the area. If we become a foodie destination, I think that's a really good thing for the town and a really good thing for this specific little area here. Also, I'm the incoming president of downtown Colonial Beach. And I think that this effort really, this project really would be consistent with the interests of what downtown Colonial Beach is trying to achieve. So for all those reasons, I'm very much in support of this project.
So as the Director of Economic Development, I want to commend the Griffies for following through on this. It has been quite a process. This aligns with some of the things that we talked about earlier on the economic development plan. One of the things that we can increase are the number of restaurants, and we will become kind of the food destination for the Northern Neck, which helps all restaurants. And some of those mobile vending units don't necessarily have to be restaurants. So if you're going to have a total of 7 after 2 years, some of those offer retail space to startups. And we've seen this in many other communities around the country where they've been highly successful. And since we don't have a ton of retail space available right now, these are opportunities for small companies to come and grow. So I would recommend supporting this as well.
Mr. Whelan.
Hi, my name is Michael Whalen, 320 First Street. I intend to be a participant in this mobile vending court. I've spoken on many occasions, and for starters, I want to thank the council for being forefathers and mothers of invention of seeing this town being progressive, of taking it to the next level, making the appeal here that we are beyond just a little beach, that we offer these services and things that really benefit the visitors as well as the residents that live here. I see this project, which I am in total favor of, as being a benefit in that direction of progression for families, for business opportunity, to hire new people, additional revenue for the town, and better yet, to fill a void that doesn't exist now with the boardwalk construction going on. There's no boardwalk vendors down there. There's next to zero services available, not only to our visitors that come seasonally, but to the local people. And I just see this as a huge plus for Colonial Beach, as being that progressive town that we're promoting on our mission statement. A good place for families, good place for business to operate, and it's just a fun place to be a part of. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it. And I do hope that you will allow this to be the last meeting on this topic, and this will move forward. Thank you very much.
And lastly, Mr. Griffey.
I'm Griffey, 157 Shelford Lane. Obviously, I'm a principal in this endeavor, and I certainly hope you approve this application this evening. But I want to thank Tom and Darla for all the effort they put forth the last year. And they've written some very, very nice publications to display what we're trying to do there. And it's been a lot of time and effort by the applicant and staff, so thank you for that.
Is that everyone? No email comments? Okay, wonderful. We will, anybody else? Before I close? All right, I'll close the public hearing at 9:04 p.m. All right, and now we'll have any council questions or discussion. Yes, Dr. Sullivan, and we may be good to have Darla and the applicant close by the podium in case there's any questions. Come on up, Mr. Griffin.
So I wanna commend Elizabeth and Alan on sticking to this and getting you to this point. And I commend the diligence of the planning commission and the planning department for helping them get through this. I know it wasn't easy. I do have one concern, and it wasn't mentioned, but during the planning commission meeting, three adjacent landowners raised the concern of there not being a requirement for a porta potty or some sort of a bathroom there on site. And I think their concerns are legitimate, and I'm hoping council will consider that. The closest public bathrooms is half a block this way, 2 blocks that way, and a block that way. The restaurants next door both have bathrooms, and they are concerned that people are gonna be running over to wanna use their bathrooms because there aren't any on site where there are up to 7 mobile vendors, some of whom, possibly many of them, whom would be serving drinks. And the neighbors to the back were concerned that, okay, so I think they resolved this. They were worried that people would cut through their property, which is a nature sanctuary, a bird preserve, to get to the bathrooms quicker. I think they resolved that by agreeing to work together to put up additional fencing. At least that was the discussion that was going on. However, there's still a concern that, people there might just go to that back corner under the trees and urinate on the property. So it's not, I don't think it's unreasonable to require some sort of a porta potty as a condition of a mobile vending court when there are not accessible public restrooms within a short walking distance.
I'd like to see, the applicant or Darla, you wanna respond to
Yes,
those concerns?
it's a 3-minute walk to the public restroom via Hawthorne from the lot. And I'm just asking that the town council consider the last, mobile home vendor port that was approved, that was not required to have bathrooms.
However, they did have bathrooms on site for the employees, and they are right across the street from a public bathroom, and it would take me longer than 3 minutes to walk there, and if I gotta go, I gotta go.
That applicant did have to have restrooms for the employees.
Okay.
Is there an opposition to having a porta potty there?
It was not part of the. It's not part of the plan to have bathrooms on site just due to, the many issues, with that. As far as maintenance, who's gonna manage that? There's not a plan to have permanent staffing there to manage that facility. I guess we believe that since there were public restrooms in 2 directions that were certainly walkable, that should not be required. And given that there's a transient type use, a lot of the folks will be grab and go kind of situation. They'll take things out there somewhere else.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, hold on, let me see.
Another thing to consider is that, per the health code, being a mobile vending unit, it's not a requirement to have a bathroom. So, although it would be nice, right, of course, everybody would like to have a bathroom close by, but it would not be a health code violation if they don't have bathrooms on site.
Okay.
However, a CUP does require the consideration of the impact on the neighboring properties.
Sure.
And I think the owners of the neighboring properties raised a good point.
I think it's a valid discussion point. Is there a further discussion on that one?
Would it be a deal breaker to request that there be a porta potty in the property? I mean, we're this close, right? You know, we're this close.
I think it might end up being a request of your vendors, but I don't know that we have to require it here. Yes.
I was just thinking maybe that, maybe a trial, like, if you get a lot of citizen complaints, maybe put something in the permit that says, if bathrooms become an issue, they could become a requirement. I don't know, but I mean, at this point, we don't know, we don't know if it's gonna be a problem or not.
Sure.
If it becomes a problem, there should be a way to address it at some point, otherwise we're stuck, like Darla said before, once we set these conditions, that's it, we're done. Permanent forever land, so have to figure out a way to have an exit strategy.
Okay.
The problem is out. I don't know if that's sticking this thing working. I don't know if that's something you guys would consider, but try it, and if it becomes a problem, maybe you would consider it, and then you would probably know within a year or two whether you could do it, if it's a problem.
I feel like the patrons would, if it is a necessity, would demand it, to be honest with you. Then if it's not a necessity, they would not demand it.
Madam Mayor, I was gonna add, I'm already worried about the aesthetics. I hope if it gets approved, it's a beautiful space. The spaces in downtown cities that have the food truck vending areas are beautiful. So I really hope aesthetically it's a really pleasing space. So with that in mind, I'm already worried about the aesthetics and a porta potty in a small lot. I do not think it should be a requirement for them. Like I said, maybe at one point it's an issue, we can visit it, but there are bathrooms a half a block away.
No, ma'am, they're a lot further than a half block away. I can show you on this map.
Okay, they're about 1 block, is that
3
correct?
blocks.
3
walking blocks. Yes.
I'm still not a fan. I think they're close enough in walking distance. And
Okay,
especially since it's not a health code violation, there's no requirement unless we made it one.
I think it's a valid point to discuss. I think that the neighbors, concerns, I think you should be mindful of the fact that your neighbors have those concerns. Yes, Ms. Ward.
I was just gonna share that, there is, you can impose conditions with a conditional use permit. And so you could impose a condition that requires a porta potty if that's the desire of council. You could also look at an alternative that may, require them to come back, after there's a certain period of time to evaluate this issue, to see if it's been something of a concern. Sometimes that involves, granting a conditional use permit for a certain period of time to see what issues have come up during that time and have them come back. Or you could say, it would be difficult, honestly, for staff to enforce. If we hear from people complaining about it, then we would know, but, within a certain period of time, have an evaluation. If that becomes an issue, then they would have to go back. I actually thought that for a mobile vending courtyard, the health department may say, because you've got this larger group of people, you may have to have,
It might become a health department facility. Yeah.
It might actually also be that the porta potties are required. Could you answer that question for us?
As it relates to health department requirements, that'll be something we have to look into a little bit further, but maybe a middle ground approach when there's high traffic, maybe the conversation is I heard Mr. Griffey's point as it relates to staffing, it and planning for that full time. We understand the peak seasons as well, as that has implications on us as a town, so maybe the concession is a porta potty during season, and then out of season, they don't have to have it.
I mean, we're so close, right? And we want to see you guys start making money. Okay. The facilities are a concern, and you guys were kind enough to be chatting with each other when I first posed the question to you. Would it be a deal breaker if during the season you maintain the porta potty?
I think one of the concerns is not the patrons, but the people actually working there. Is like the people who are on shift for however long. Right.
I think we're satisfied with
In season. I like that adjustment.
Yes.
too.
Yes. In season porta potty on site.
Thank you
We'll have it placed in a location that's not objectionable from the street.
You've got an area in the back marked for sheds or something?
It would be probably in that area.
Yeah.
Well, as we used to say, don't spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes buying it back. It's like we have an agreement.
Okay, I wanna call Mr. Williams. Yes.
Yeah, a couple of questions. One was, I noticed in here that it's something about a requirement for a zoning permit. Darby, can you elaborate on that? Because I don't remember that being part of the discussion for the last food truck court.
Yes, sir, it was.
It was.
So you have the conditional use permit for the courtyard.
Right.
And then each mobile vendor that's going to be sited on that property is required to obtain a zoning permit. And part of that process, as you see, there's a list there of the types of things that they need to provide to staff on their mobile vending unit. And specifically, the most important of those being that they actually have a health department permit, which is required. Before they begin operating. And then also information about the unit itself, so that we can keep track of, the fact that it's there, it's being maintained. And who's responsible for operation of the mobile vending unit in case we begin to have any questions that we need addressed that way. So yes, sir, there's a permit for each individual vendor.
Okay, and what's the fee for that?
$25.
Okay, that's one of the things I was worried about, like, because the regular fee for the town permit is, hundreds of dollars. Okay. And I know one of the complaints I got from a startup business in town a while back was the requirement for planting. And they said they got this huge list of all these plants that they need to do, and they're very specific. And have we fine-tuned that to make it a more business-friendly process, or is it still pretty onerous on the small business trying to get started?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what business you're talking about. Was it a similar business as this business?
Yeah, the ice cream hall.
Okay, so that is still in the works, working with the other mobile vending courtyard to determine, because there was none proposed by them with their application. Right, so we're working with them to get some plantings that will help mitigate that impact. It's not a screen, so there's not a total, you're not trying to plant plants that will totally obstruct the view. But the plantings are helped to minimize like the backs of the mobile vending units and where that activity occurs there. These applicants have submitted a conceptual landscaping plan with their application. And so we have agreed generally on the numbers of plants and the types that would be needed for this. So it's going to be, I say types, their locations and the difference between shrubs in some areas and trees in other areas. So we'll be able to work through that, just updating their conceptual plan.
Okay, and I guess we're making this go with the land?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that was one of my concerns the last food truck court, and I lost out on that. I'm not a fan of them being permanent. I'm obviously not gonna vote against it just because of that, but one thing I wanted to ask Mr. Griffey, because I know this has been a kind of a point of contention, is the tap fee thing. I'm assuming this gets passed and you're gonna do it, but I mean, is that still a stumbling block? The $80,000 or whatever the town is trying to charge originally for the 2-lot tap fees.
Did the town ever say that? Did the town say $80,000?
2 lots, $40,000.
Did the town say it?
I do have communication from Public Works that says that we would have to pay the new tap fees for commercial space. And those fees are.
Okay, that's what I wanted to, I just want to know if that really.
I do have an email to that effect from Public Works, but the application submitted was subject to cooperation with Public Works and allowing use of the existing taps that are there.
Okay. The residential with, is that correct?
There were previously residential dwellings on those lots, but I'm not certain that the taps on that street are different from what's already there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, I think Mayor, yes.
I would make a motion that we approve the CUP with the additional condition of a porta potty during the season. I would say that is our season, which is April 1st to October 1st. September 30th, right? That would be my motion to approve everything else with that additional condition added.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Hold on, there's a motion on the floor. There's a second. There's a second. Okay, we can open up discussion. Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I was in council, I was gonna make a suggestion to amplify that a little bit more, to identify that the location of the portable toilet to be reviewed and approved to the by the community development department, and that the toilet shall be located in a place that is discreet and the toilet well maintained.
I cannot imagine them putting it next to the grate.
It also to protect you and to protect your, the vending area, and again, I go back to the aesthetics, but to protect you all. We don't want people who are beachgoers just passing by the food court and sitting in the corner there and using it, and that could be a problem as well. That's what I'm thinking of. Foot traffic, who's gonna wanna come by and use your porta potty.
That's what I'm worried about.
And that's, People like Frank, I'm worried about it too, I don't think that's right, and like,
Should we vote on the porta potty issue uniquely? And then vote on the cup? I'm kind of seeing, I feel like I'm trying to gauge input here. So why don't we just vote on the porta potty being added, the seasonal porta potty being added? Okay, let's just vote on that one aspect. Yes.
And that would be with the approval of the location.
Right, with the location.
Right, and the dates for the season, April 1st to September 1st.
To correspond with the seasonal dates that is in all the rest of the town code. Yes. Okay, which is April 1st to September 30th. Okay, yes.
A clarification on the season thing, that they can have vendors there all year round.
Yes.
Unlike the town's vendor program, but.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Okay, good point. Okay, are we ready to vote on just the Porter John issue? Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Yes.
nay.
Nay.
I say nay, but it passed. So I think the porta potty thing and seasonal is included in the cup now. Now we're gonna vote for the cup with that contingency being added, okay? Is there any further discussion before we do this vote? Seeing none, I'll start from the same side.
Aye.
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 I'm going to abstain because I am an adjacent property owner and I want to make sure I disclose that. I have no interest in it one way or the other, but I just think it's easier to not have to worry about that. Right? You got it.
Thank you, sir. May I have another, right?
Okay, I think I've been avoiding this one.
Uh-oh.
Ms. Adams Jacobs, have you noticed my avoidance of it? Has it been notable or not?
Yeah.
If it's not because I do not accept it, but because I do just dearly appreciate you so. And honestly, I'm still like coming to terms with it, so give me a minute, all right? Okay. It's been a very just growing process for this town, your time here, and I absolutely appreciate you moving on to other things and all of that. I'm very excited for you for that, and there'll be more times to give you thank yous and all of that. I just think it's worth pointing out and recognizing that in you moving to the next step, that you have left this town in such a great position to do so. And I cannot tell you how much that means to me. As a mayor, as a resident, as a citizen, as a lifelonger beacher, that you did that for us. That you set us up for success in many different arenas across all the departments. You know, Chief Parsons is in here, ready to go, Lisa's ready to go, we got Powell on board, JC, God bless you. The zoning come so far, you know, and then to have Natasha and to bring her on board and through your maternity leave and her learning from you, and I just really just want to say thank you genuinely. And to echo Tim Tribbet's statement, and you already know this because I already submitted my quote, but you are a true public servant. This woman thinks about public service day in and day out in every decision that she makes. I guarantee it. She is thinking in a visionary, forward way, constantly. She's always saying, where does this leave us a decade from now, 2 decades from now, down the road? It is a strategic mindset that will set us up for success for many years to come. It is also your birthday. And I know I said I forgot it was your birthday, but I didn't. We have a card and a gift, and I appreciate you very, very much. And I just want to say happy birthday, and you're still with us till the 29th. So don't exit just yet. But we have to officially do the resolution. So. That I think is the task at hand at the moment. So with regret. Resolution 5323, which is that the town council of the town of Plainview Beach. Will be accepting Miss India Adams Jacobs' resignation and will appoint Natasha Tucker to serve as interim town manager effective Saturday, December 30th of 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second.
Unfortunately, I have to say.
They don't want to put the first one in.
Nobody wants to do it. All right, all in favor?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
could we vote individually?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You got it. We will vote individually.
India, with deepest regret, I will vote for accepting the resignation. But I would like to say that you have set a standard that is going to be incredibly hard to match. You have been a role model for young women in this town. You have gone above and beyond by helping to coach at our high school. You have encouraged a diverse staff and hired a diverse staff in this town. And I am sincerely grateful, as I'm sure many of our residents are, for the opportunity to have worked with you. Thank you.
Ms. Brown, how do you vote?
That's extremely tough to follow. But it has been a pleasure working with you the past couple weeks, and yes. Aye.
Nay.
Mr. Wood?
I'm sorry to see you go, but it's a good thing that you got such a competent person following you up, but I've told you many times, even when we butted heads, and you're the smartest person in this town, and so I'm sorely gonna miss you, but we're gonna miss you. Good luck down the road.
All right.
It's been many a year since we have had the, where am I? Just the professionalism, the individuality that she brought and brought all the people in with you. It was the 80s. When, in my opinion, you know, I've been here a long time. Our last town manager left, and he was sorely missed. And he still is where he went to from here, so stay where you're good. We can come and see each other every now and then. No, class act all the way. Positive, enlightening, not a moment's worry have I had in my.
You vote aye then?
I do.
Okay.
I have to. People are meant to go on. So.
Yes. I vote aye and a happy birthday. Can we sing our happy birthday?
Yes, you have to do that.
Congratulations to the doctor. I mean, that really is.
Kind of get a just now. It's a.
Okay. All right, we have one last thing, which is to join a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code 22-3711A1. You're gonna hear my auctioneer voice now. For the purpose of discussing and considering both the resignation of an employee appointed by the town council and an interim appointment to the position held by the employee resigning. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second, all in favor? Okay, we'll take a recess for a bathroom break and then we can back in. Thank you very much.
to reconvene an open meeting. So moved. Second. All fair? Aye. Okay, do I have a motion to certify that only public business matters were identified in the motion that were made to go into closed meeting were heard, discussed, or, and I don't have the rest of the language, or discussed.
What is it?
Hold on. I got pretty far. I know. Only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by council. So moved. Second. All right, now you have to vote certify.
That's it, certified. I so certify.
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 I said certify and a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
There we go, meeting adjourned.
Okay,
8:15.
Lance is here. Okay, okay.
All right, adios amigos.
Yeah.
Tito just called me.
Yeah.